Hey there, guys, and welcome back to the Travis and Damian podcast, episode 103. We're available on anchor.fm/Travis Damian podcast, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and many more. Today, we're going to be talking about Fortnite, Avatar: The Way of Water, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, Daredevil, our favorite games of 2022, and more. So first, let's just jump into our recent activities, and then we'll head into the news. So, yeah, I'll go first real quick because I have Avatar, Spy Family, Core 2 or Season 2, and then a bunch of online games and random stuff I've been doing. So I went to go see Avatar: The Way of Water because why not? It's like one of the biggest movies of this year, and it's been a long time waiting for over a decade. So I was like, fuck it, why not? It's been over. It's literally been since the movie came out since I've seen the first one, and I didn't rewatch it. So what me and my girlfriend Emma did, we just watched like a 12-minute recap video and like half kind of paid attention and then just head into it and then just watch the movie. And honestly, as a person that isn't really like a big movie guy and isn't really familiar with like James Cameron's work, I really liked Avatar too. It was a lot of fun. I know that there's some people that don't like it or maybe, have problems with the story, which is understandable. I know our friend Louis had a bunch of complaints with it. One of the more notable ones that I didn't really see when I watched it, but I can understand it being really jarring is when they change between the high frame rate and then back to the lower frame rate of like the 24 frames. So I did like a quick Google search as to like the high frame rates and the low frame rates. So they do the high frame rate stuff when they're like in the water and like during like the action sequences, so it looks more smooth. And then during like the slower parts where they're just like talking or like walking around, they'll do like the 24 frames. So me personally, I didn't notice that when I was watching it. Maybe it's just because I'm dumb or just like not paying attention as much. But overall, I really enjoyed Avatar. Obviously, like it is like a really good looking movie. I didn't watch it in 3D. I might rewatch it in 3D. I don't know yet. It is a 3-hour commitment that you are watching. Yeah. So it is a little more jarring to go back and rewatch it. But then again, I did go see Endgame like 5 times in theaters. So I'm no one to really complain about that. But I might go rewatch it in 3D because I heard that watching it in 3D is like the best way to watch it, just like with the first Avatar. But yeah, visually really, really good. Obviously all of the underwater sequences, the CGI is like flawless. Like it really does look realistic, and it's like insane how good the movie looks. Cause I'm just like, this shit looks really, really good. Story wise, like me personally, it's not something that I'm not unfamiliar with when it comes to movies and like stories and things like that. So, but I didn't have a problem with it. I know that this is sort of like a series or like a franchise now where it's like it's not really about the story. The story is okay in my opinion. Like it'll definitely like get you invested, and sort of you'll see these characters change and evolve over time, and you'll be invested in their storylines. I definitely forgot Jake Sully's name when me and Louis were talking about the movie. I was like, who the fuck is the main character's name again? Holy shit. Because like the whole time I was watching, I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, Jake Sully. Like this guy's a fucking badass. But like afterwards I was like, who the fuck is this guy again? But still, like if you haven't seen Avatar yet, I still recommend go and watch it. Even if you haven't seen the first movie in like however long or never even seen it to begin with, I think that this is a movie that you can jump in and honestly enjoy, because I really enjoyed it without really remembering much or really knowing much about the first Avatar movie. Obviously, like that 12-minute recap video that I watched that I like half paid attention to did help a little bit because it did re-explain certain concepts with the Avatar universe. Like, for example, the Avatar people, they like breathe in a lot of carbon dioxide air, which is why like when you see like human characters wear like the face shields and like the mask, that's why, because if they breathe it, they're gonna fucking die instantly. And certain things like that, if you want to, I guess, remember who Jake Sully was before he got into the world of Pandora and everything like that. So but yeah, overall, I really enjoyed Avatar. It did feel like a 3-hour movie for me personally. Some people were like, man, those 3 hours went by so fast. I'm like, I don't know, man. Some of it was kind of, building up, going kind of slow here and there. But still, overall, I really enjoyed Avatar: The Way of Water. It's definitely a movie that I would recommend, even if you don't really care about Avatar.
Yeah, I'm actually going to watch it this Friday, so I'll let you know in the next podcast. I am going to watch it in 3D, so
okay,
because I feel like it's one of the few movies is like, you kind of have to, to get the full experience, I guess. And just like you, like the last time I watched Avatar 1 was in the theaters when it first came out in 3D, And I had the same opinion everyone else had, where it's just like, oh, this is a really good looking movie, but I can't remember anything else about it. So it's gonna be interesting to see what I think about this one. Again, I think I might still have the same opinion, like, oh wow, it looks really pretty. But no, I'm looking forward to it though, especially after hearing mostly good things about it. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, after watching it, I was like, yeah, I could see why the hype for James Cameron's there, because this guy's a fucking genius. Like, he knows what he's doing. But I'll be honest, like, when I was watching it, when it comes to like these story beats and like these storylines, like if you're not fully paying attention to like what the characters are saying, like you will miss some things and be like, oh wait, that'll sort of come back later in the movie and things like that. So like this is definitely like a movie where like you kind of have to like fully pay attention to it, where like if you miss like 5-10 minutes of it, you're gonna like miss some things, which might be hard for some people if they gotta go up and use the bathroom during this fucking 3-hour movie. But yeah, Avatar: The Way of Water, definitely really, really good. Highly recommend it. It's already crossed $1 billion or whatever worldwide, which is insane. It keeps crossing 100 mil every single fucking day. And I'm just like, yo, this shit's not going to stop. But
no, it's not. It's going to make a shit ton of money.
Which is still crazy. But moving on from there, going to quickly talk about Spy Family Core 2 or Season 2, pretty much. So yeah, I mean, I'm wearing a Spy Family shirt for a reason, because I fucking love Spy Family. Obviously, this dog Bond is one of the highlights of Season 2, and you get to see who Bond is within the first few episodes. And the sort of main gimmick of Spy Family is the fact that everyone has like a power or a ability, but the only one who really knows everything is Anya, and then everyone else is kind of like in the dark as to like who's who and who's what. So I think that that's like one of the main things that really keeps people from going back to it, because it is a lot of fun. It is very much like a slice of life kind of thing. It's not really like an action shonen. So if you're not really into that, you might not like Spy Family. But I feel like after the first episode of Spy Family from season 1, you'll know whether or not you'll like the show, because I feel like that first episode really does encapsulate everything that this series is, in my opinion. So as a manga reader, I'm gonna put my nerd glasses on for a second.
As a manga reader,
this is definitely one of the better anime adaptations that I had a lot of fun watching season 2. Moving on from there, some online games real quick. Overwatch 2, League of Legends, Fortnite, Valorant. So Overwatch 2,
we went through a whole rant last time.
We did do a whole rant, and I am still in that same camp. I very much have
kind of agreed with you. Like,
I very much have a angry gamer boy rage when I'm fucking playing the game, because I'm just like, yo, man, like some of these players are like not doing their role, or maybe I'm not doing my role, and like I'm not aware of it. I mean, I'm fucking like bronze 4 now in like DPS, so like I can't really say shit. Like I'm already like at the bottom. But even then, I feel like that some players are just straight up trolling. Like one game I had like my tank play Reinhardt, and he was like AFK for like the first like 10 to 15 seconds, which is like pretty fucking crucial. And then like for the rest of the game was just like running it down and just like not really playing their role correctly. And I'm just like, all right, well, I guess we lost, because like they already had like 100 meters on us and we only got like 10. Like there's no fucking way that we come back, kind of thing.
Right.
But yeah, Overwatch 2 is just so fucking annoying, which is why I went back and started playing more League of Legends. I actually played like a lot more League in like the past week or two than I really thought I was going to, because I was just like, fuck, I just want to play League because of everything that's going around with the LCS, and like especially 100 Thieves, who's like one of the organizations that I follow a ton, and the fact that they picked up Bjergsen and Doublelift, who are legacy NA players who I have been following my entire watching of League of Legends career pretty much. I knew Doublelift when he was on CLG, and Bjergsen was already on TSM when I was introduced to him. So having those two players back on 100 Thieves, especially with their roster that they have cooking, I'm fucking excited for it. So I was just like, fuck it, let me go and play some, League of Legends. And yeah, it's pretty much the same shit, Some games you'll play well, some games you won't, and whether or not that'll affect the game, who knows? But yeah, and then other times someone else is going to be running it down and you can't really do much about it. But it is what it is. I feel like within League, I'm a lot more tame about it because I'm not that invested into it. And also, it's like preseason, so like it's not that... Like, it really doesn't matter in preseason because like your rank doesn't change or anything like that. I think your MMR does get affected. Not entirely sure, but I'm just trying to have some fun with League, just playing some ranked. And also, I like the changes that they made with the new ping system. I think that is very neat. There's like a hook that people are using as like a way to like KMS, like fuck you, kill yourself, kind of thing. But it's actually used to say like bait them in, but like people use it, the other way around very, very quickly.
They always find ways.
But another feature is that like within champs, like everyone's anonymous. Like everyone has like streamer mode on, so no one knows who's who, because it would get very like hostile within champs, like when people would like just look up your op.gg. If you're on a watch streak, this guy's like targeting you instantly, and I'm just like, well, you know, or like someone's like autofilled. If they have the confidence to play in that autofilled role, then it's like, okay, fine, whatever. And then if they have a bad game, then fuck it, whatever. I don't really care. But you know, when like you would just like maliciously like attack people within champ select, I'm like, I don't like this shit, you know. And like with the way league is structured, with like the laning phase and like mid to late game, with the objectives, like multiple ways to like get back into the game and like actually play to win. Then Overwatch is just like, all right, you either push the point or capture it. And then like if you fuck up like your ults or whatever, like people use ults like when you're dead or whatever, I'm like, all right, fuck it, like whatever. Like there's no real way to like really come back within Overwatch unless you legit work together as a team, which can be very hard. Yes, it's very hard where like some people throw, or like they're just using ult willy-nilly, and I'm just like, yo, like if you just waited for me to like respawn and like use your ult when I was there, it might have been a little better, but it is what it is. And because Overwatch games are a lot shorter, which may be a upside, there's a lot more like sort of urgency to like do things. So like some people may feel like, oh shit, I have to do this now or never, which is the right move, and sometimes it's not. But yeah, you know, I've just been playing more League because I'm just like, I want to play a 5v5 game that like, for one, I'm like actually good at, and two, that like I feel is more rewarding when you win or lose kind of thing, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. Like, when Overwatch is like, I feel like if you miss like your ult timings and stuff like that, then you're kind of just dead until you get your ults back. And it's like, it could become like a not fun thing, because the whole game is kind of built around just waiting for ult charges. Like it's always kind of been like that. Like obviously you could just win by being good, but you know, ults are kind of like the main thing. I know that's with like every like MOBA or whatever games that have ults, but I feel like in Overwatch it feels way more egregious than like League did, just because how strong some ults are. But and I don't even know how you even fix that, because I'm not in the balance team, but it's kind of a thing that Blizzard's always been struggled with. I already talked about this last podcast, but yeah, I think Blizzard's like balancing department kind of needs like more work, because I don't think they know what they're doing. So,
it is definitely very frustrating playing Overwatch too. But you know, I try to have as much fun as I can, because I know my girlfriend really does want to play, and I'm just like, I'm being like angry gamer boy, like in the fucking corner, like typing away, and I only type. This deadass happened last night. Someone started typing to us, and like they said some like really like dumbass shit where it's like, our DPS has like HIV or AIDS or some shit. I was like, what the fuck is this guy spewing? So then I said, is this what your doctor told you this morning? And then they were like, oh, why did it take you so long to type this and that? I'm like, oh, fuck you, bro. And then like Emma left, and then I was like, no, I wasn't done typing.
I wasn't done.
But yeah, you know, it is what it is. Speaking of another game with ults, Valorant, I was playing that a little bit. I actually played 2 ranked games because I'm like, yeah, you know, if I'm going to play by myself, I might as well play ranked kind of thing. It is definitely a lot more fun when you play with friends, just because calming is such a big thing. And I feel like calming with friends is obviously a lot more comfortable than calming to strangers, because you don't know what's going to come out of their mouth. But even then, when I was playing with these strangers, you know, I could notice that some of them obviously don't know how to talk to people, where it's like, oh my God, man, why'd you make that mistake? Like, oh my God, you should have just held this and this. And I'm just like, all right, he fucked up. Like, it is what it is, you know, just like, you know, if you want to coach him like a little bit, you know, you could be like, I just like hold that next time or whatever, and then just end it. But like, so, you know, some of these guys are just like, you know, trying to like lecture them and shit. And I'm just like, bro, we're all like the same rank here kind of thing. But yeah, you know, Valorant, it is what it is. But Fortnite though, Fortnite's a lot of fun. I still like Fortnite.
So, after like, you know, you talking about the whole Overwatch rant last podcast, you were talking about Fortnite. I'm like, you know what? Let me give this a shot. Like, Doom Guy's in it. I want to play as Doom Guy. So I started playing it, and I'm like, holy shit, yeah, this game is really fun now. So I tried Zero Build, and obviously that's like the best mode now, because, you know, it just makes the game like 10 times more fun to me. I know like building is kind of like the identity of that game, but for me, it's always been like really annoying. Like I'm bad at it. Like that's fair. You know, it does take a lot of skill to actually be good at the whole building stuff. Yeah. But I also just found it like intrusive. Like I didn't find it like a fun part of the game. Like I liked everything else about Fortnite. I just really didn't like building. And I played a good bit of Fortnite. It's not like I didn't play Fortnite before all this. Like, I played like 80 hours of it apparently before, you know, all this. Like I played like the first 5 seasons or whatever. So I did play a good chunk of it. But zero build is so fun. Like I'm actually like winning. All right, so before zero build, I've won one solo game. That was the only one once in my whole life. Like this past week, I won like 4 times. I'm like, well, all right. It's way easier when you can't just shoot people and you can't build a whole fortress around them.
But also, I will say it might be because Epic's just trying to give you like the bot players so they could like hook you in. You know, because that does always happen. That does always happen when like me and Emma like invite like Louis or Kofi on. Like the first game we play, it's like the bot lobby, and like we're almost guaranteed the win.
I didn't notice that. Like the first game I came back, there was like 4 people around me, and they weren't doing anything. They were kind of just crouching. Like, all right, these are bots. So yeah, it could like they could be doing that. I mean, Epic is smart. I mean, they've been, you know, they want all your money and V-Bucks and shit, and like
they want your dopamine.
You know, they do want your dopamine. Like the game is very full of dopamine. Obviously, like the main gameplay, opening chests, you get all the stuff, but the you know, all the new graphics and shit. Like, you know, level up. You got this. You did this. You did that. You know, it's all there to like, you know, make you spend money and more time in the game, which is fine. I still think the game has one of the better battle pass systems to begin with. I mean, it made the system to begin with. Like, you know, Fortnite's kind of what originated the battle pass. And it kind of sucks because I remember weeklies used to stack. I don't think they do that anymore. That kind of, I think they used to stack. I can't really remember, but they don't anymore. So it's like, you know, you just gotta wait for it to come back again.
Yeah.
The new thing is like the pages. Like you can like spend wherever your stars are on whatever rewards you want. Like you still have to level up to like level 30 to get like Doom Guy or whatever, but you don't have to buy everything before that, which is really cool. So you can like kind of focus on what you actually want, and then you can just spend the rest of your stars on some other bullshit you don't really care about. So I think that's pretty neat as well. But yeah, in terms of the gameplay, I think it's just really fun. I love all the movement options. Like the hammer is so fucking fun. I love that thing. Yeah, the hammer is really fun. Like you were talking about before, the perks are really cool. It makes the game have more randomness to it, and you know, it kind of feels more like a roguelite, I guess. Like, yeah, like, you know, things always change each round. You get, I mean, obviously there's some perks that are better than others. Like the party time one sucks ass. I don't know why you went to get that way. You just have the balloon. That's a meme one, but there's a lot of other good ones. Like your first like shot of your assault rifle does more damage or something like that. That's pretty neat. Yeah. So yeah, I think that stuff is really fun. Obviously, the game looks great now. Like, you know, they upgraded the graphics and stuff, so the game's really nice to look at. And yeah, it's just a good time. I'm having fun with the game. You know, Overwatch has been frustrating me a lot as well lately. So playing Fortnite, I'm like, yeah, this is really fun. So yeah, thank you, Epic, for making Zero Build. Honestly, if Zero Build wasn't here, I probably would not give it another chance, because I'm like, okay, I played my fair share of Fortnite and I didn't really like the building mechanic, but Zero Build has made it super fun. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I like to play like maybe one game of like build like a week or something like that before Emma's like, all right, let's go back to zero build. I'm like, all right, fine. Because like in no build, you don't get that like extra like 50 shield that regens.
Yeah, the over shield,
people are a lot more squishy, because when you play zero build, it's like, bro, this guy has 100 shield, 100 health, and then also the 50 shield, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta like put so much shit into this one guy to like kill them. And like, when you play squads, especially, holy fuck, that shit is so annoying. Because
that doesn't sound as fun in squads.
Yeah, no, because like if like 3 guys are like mowing you down, you just die instantly. But like if you're like obviously like by yourself, like 1v1, and then like the other people come, it's like so annoying too. But yeah, you know, Fortnite is still a lot of fun. And like you said, with the battle pass, like when I look at the fucking Overwatch battle pass, I'm like, this is fucking ass. Like this looks so bad, because I don't know if they give you like your credits back, because I know.
You don't get your money back.
Because in the Fortnite battle pass, like you get like a little bit of V-Bucks every single page. I'm like, I like that, you know, because that incentivizes you to either save onto that for the next battle pass, or then you could just rebuy it, or you could buy like another skin, and then you're like, oh shit, I need to buy the battle pass again, and then you got to spend more V-Bucks. So obviously, I know that there was like a news story with like Epic getting like in trouble, like however millions of dollars that they're sort of getting sued for, which is understandable, because Fortnite is a game made mainly for children, I would say. You know, despite that, obviously, like it is still like a fun game to play overall. But yeah, they definitely got in trouble because of some things that they were doing with like the microtransactions that were malicious towards children, and they probably should have done something before the courts got involved, because now they just lost millions.
Yeah, like obviously that stuff is always good. I mean, like they should like not be doing that to begin with. But overall, like Fortnite has been a really good time. There was another point. Oh, yeah, I guess with the battle pass stuff, like I feel like skins just make more sense in this game as well because you can actually like see yourself. So like it's like, oh, it's cool to actually be like, oh, look, I'm actually Doom guy. Like in like Overwatch, like you get a skin and like your gun changes, which is cool. But it's like not worth like the $20 they're charging for a skin now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think Fortnite definitely feel a little more well, not comfortable, but I feel more justified spending money on a skin because I can actually look at myself. So that's nice.
Which I think is why Riot's hesitant on doing character skins for Valorant, because it's like, what's the point of it, really? You know,
Yeah.
they've been doing so many gun skins, and the gun skins have been, working. So I don't know if they're ever going to do character skins, and also like it's going to be a lot harder if they do character skins. Like, how do you identify like a Jet from like a Raze, et cetera, et cetera? Because like the characters are obviously very distinct when you look at them from afar. So once you add skins on top of that, it's going to be tricky. But
yeah, like with Overwatch, it kind of works because like all their silhouettes are very exaggerated. Valorant, like everyone's just a person, right? So
yeah,
you don't have like a hamster, you know what I mean? Like, or a giant guy with a hammer. So like it's a little easier to just look at the silhouette of a character in Overwatch and be like, okay, that's Reinhardt still, but whatever. But yeah, besides that, I guess that was a big thing. Yeah, I also been playing Crisis Core. Again, still not done with it. I'll probably finish it next podcast. It's really good. I mean, again, like I said before, it's very much a PSP game. So like the main story stuff is very short. Like, if I was just blazing through this game, it would probably be done in like 10 hours. Like it really isn't that long. But if you're doing all the missions and shit and like, actually like, doing the actual, I guess, gameplay part, it takes a lot longer. And yeah, it's a good time. I really like the action combat. The story stuff, I think the main villain is a little, he has that like Final Fantasy melodrama thing going on, which isn't great. But I think all the character interactions and stuff is cool. I like all the background stuff, like you learn all the past of all the other characters and the other games and stuff, and 7 and stuff. So yeah, it's a good time. I probably have more to say about when I actually beat the game, but yeah, it's pretty good so far. And yeah, that's about it.
All right, so now let's get into the news, mostly movie and entertainment news. There's one gaming thing at the end, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So first up, we got is Donald Glover to star in and produce Sony Marvel film about Spider-Man villain Hypno-Hustler. Yeah. So yeah, this is another one of those films that Sony is just pumping out. That's revolving around a Spider-Man villain, and this is the newest one. And I'm surprised that Donald Glover is signing on to this, but I'm assuming it's because he has a lot more control in it, because he's, for one, starring in it and also producing it. So he's probably going to be, a lot more involved with the process of how it's going to be made, how it looks, and everything like that, and the final product. Because I think that Donald Glover as a creative person within the entertainment scene, like he's known for Childish Gambino, Atlanta, his TV series that recently just ended. He's known for a lot of good stuff. So I think that him being attached to something like this, it's obviously been a lot of red flags so far with not just with Morbius, but even Venom to a certain extent. So
Morbid time.
And we haven't seen what the other Sony Marvel films have to offer. So I wonder how this one's going to pan out. But if Donald Glover is, fully signed on, he's starring in it, producing it, I'm all in.
Yeah, I mean, it could be good. I mean, it's like, DC made a lot of like not great movies, but sometimes there's a good movie in there. And I'm hoping this is kind of that case as well. Like, I mean, people like the first Venom, right? Like, it wasn't like the worst thing ever. I mean, I didn't see it, so I don't know. But, I'm sure this movie could be good just like based on who's working on it and all that stuff. Like, Morbius like always looked bad. Like, I don't know. I always thought that movie was going to be not good, and then it wasn't good. So I'm like, okay, I guess I was right on that point. But, yeah, if Donald Glover can make this like a good movie, then I'm all down for it. I am getting a little tired of them being like, okay, well, we can't use Spider-Man, so we're just gonna use like this villain I've never heard of before. Like, I guess that's kind of cool to bring more awareness of it, but it would be cool to maybe get like maybe like a bigger like villain or something in there. But I guess they have Venom Morales, so it's like that's the biggest one they're probably gonna get. So yeah, hopefully it's good. I mean, I would rather just the Sony-verse kind of go away. Like, I'm okay with just Spider-Verse being the thing. Like, we don't need all these mixing things, like, to try and bring Vulture in from the MCU and stuff. Like, I don't know. It was like a whole mess. Like, I don't know what their plan is, if there even is a plan. But if this is just a good movie, then fine. I'll take it at this point.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Not much to really expect from this other than, hey, like, Donald Glover's a part of it.
Yeah. So next we got more Spider-Man news. So Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, talking about that. International versions showed more in like the poster because it's like a really cool poster that shows Miles and a bunch of other Spider people. And one of them is Spectacular Spider-Man to the right over there. Look at him over there. So yeah, that's really cool. Obviously, I don't, some people are saying like, oh, you better have like a thing and stuff. Like, probably not. But I feel like most of these spider people are going to just be small, like 1 second cameos you see for like a second, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's okay. I'm okay with that. Like, they're probably not going to be as involved as like the other spider people in, the first movie where like they actually have like more screen time. But who knows? Maybe it might. But I think it's cool either way. I think Spider-Man has so many incarnations at this point that's cool to just see a bunch of them all in one movie. I know like the multiverse stuff is getting kind of out of hand at this point, but it's still cool for this. So fuck you.
Yeah, I mean, the poster itself looked really, really cool, and we didn't really get to see a good glimpse of Spectacular Spider-Man before this international version of the poster came out. We could actually see also the PlayStation 4 Spider-Man there as well. So yeah, I mean, the fact that they are acknowledging the Spectacular Spider-Man is super dope. I hope that they got Josh Keaton back to voice the character for however many lines that character has within the film. Obviously, this is Miles' movie, so I'm not expecting anything crazy or grandiose like you said, Damian. But it is very cool and very nice to see that they are acknowledging this version of Spider-Man, because I feel like a lot of Spidey fans, including myself and maybe even you, that is like one of, if not the best adaptation of Spider-Man for television, movies, across everything, because the way they were able to blend everything together from not just like the comics, but like how Venom was introduced, so they introduced him within like the first episode and were sort of like very meticulously planning their way across to get Peter Parker to whichever storylines that they wanted to get him through. So yeah, it was a kid's show, but at the same time it was like really, really good within its writing and its storytelling.
Yeah, and I think that's what like most kids shows or cartoons should really aim for, like still be like a good show. And not just like that's why like I think like some of the other Spider-Man shows like Ultimate Spider-Man or the one after that, they were like so kid focused that they were just kind of like toddler fodder at that point. Like I don't know, I feel like you still have it like be both ways, like obviously I watched Spectacular Spider-Man, but I also watched like the 90s show and the some other one. There was like some CGI one as well. Like, and they were all good. Obviously, they were still like for kids, but like they were still entertaining for an adult as well. So whatever. It should be entertaining for both. And if you want to make something good, make it good for everything.
Yeah. So hopefully we get to see obviously more of Across the Spider-Verse soon. This poster is probably just the tipping of the iceberg, and we probably won't see more until going into next year.
Yeah.
But moving on from there, we got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's response to Black Adam not being DC's first chapter of storytelling. So, yeah, I mean, obviously this is like a PR answer. He obviously had a chat with James Gunn, and James Gunn was like, yeah, man, Black Adam, great film, but, that's not going to be as their first chapter within the new DCU, which, was probably going to be expected, especially since Henry Cavill isn't returning as Superman. And I think that was sort of The Rock's way of trying to get people back on the DC hype train was to reintroduce Henry Cavill as Superman. But it looks like that whatever The Rock's plan or whatever DC's plan was with Black Adam and everything like that, it is seen to being scrapped and sort of reworked within the context of Gunn's and I forget the other guy's name, but their new DCU. And I find it very funny that I will always root for DC (parentheses) and Marvel (and parentheses). I think that was like a very funny part of this message. But yeah, I mean, it does seem like The Rock did write this, but at the same time, you can tell that some other people, went in there and was like, all right, we should probably change this, change that, etc., etc.
Yeah, like he seemed to have like, I think he wanted this movie to be a lot better than it ended up being, because The Rock was like really like into this apparently.
Yeah.
I remember I think it was the Summer Game Fest where he just like fucking was all like coked out like on Jeff Keighley's thing. It's like, yo, watch Black Adam, and then he went through a whole rant. That was weird. But yeah, I don't know, like I think he really did want this movie to be like the next jumping off point for the DCU, but just like James Gunn wasn't having it and he's just scrapping it, which is probably fair. Like, again, I heard the movie was just like okay at best. Like there really wasn't anything that great about it either way. So again, I mostly agree with James Gunn's decision to mostly scrap everything still. Like obviously it sucks for some things, but for most of the DCU, I think it needs it. Like the Flash, I think should also just be canceled at this point. We said this many times. I still don't know why that movie's even coming out at this point. Like just cancel it.
They must have a gun to like James Gunn's head, like actually though, for him to not like cancel that film and cancel everything else and sort of like retcon everything. So yeah, it must be like they invested way too much money into the film where like they can't scrap it.
Yeah, that's probably fair. That's the only reason why I could see like why it's not canceled at this point, because it's actually insane how it's still going. But yeah, it sucks for The Rock, but at the end of the day, The Rock would be fine. Like it sucks if you wanted him to be in the DCU or any type of superhero at this point. Like I don't know if he'll ever be in the MCU, for example, but he'll be fine.
Yeah.
And I have faith in James Gunn to make something good out of all this. So hopefully we can see that come to fruition when he actually like releases like, his first big thing for the DCU, but besides the Suicide Squad. So yeah.
Yeah. It does seem like, with the Flash movie, even if they were to like do like the tax write-off bullshit that they did with Batgirl, they spent so much money like getting Ezra Miller out of jail and like hiring those lawyers and shit like that. All of that cost they're not going to see if they do decide to like cancel the movie and do all that tax write-off bullshit. But it is Warner Brothers. It is DC. I'll hold my opinion on the movie until I believe the first trailer is going to drop during the Super Bowl or something like that. So,
oh boy,
which DC hasn't done in like over like 10 years, like dropping like a trailer during the Super Bowl spotlight. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. Whether that movie delivers or not, do I pray on its downfall? Maybe so. But it is what it is. So,
alrighty. So this is an interesting one. Movie studios can be sued under false advertising laws if they release deceptive movie trailers. So yeah, this is really cool. Honestly, for movies, I'm not too sure because I'm more of a video game man. But this law would apply very good for video games. I'm surprised it's not a thing yet for gaming. Because with movies, obviously you could get deceptive for some trailers. Like there was one example for what was it?
Infinity War with Hulk. Or
was that? No, it was something like stupid, and I can't remember what it was. Oh, Kangaroo Jack. Okay, so when I was a kid, when I was a kid, Kangaroo Jack, I thought that movie was gonna be an anime movie about kangaroo doing funny stuff. What I got was like this weird story about like drugs and like two guys try to get the kangaroo, and the kangaroo appears for like 2 seconds. Yeah, that's the most egregious one I could think of, where I got like decepted as a kid and I felt lied to. So yeah, that's what I could think of. But I think video games are a little more inclined to do this type of stuff because it's very easy to fake gameplay a lot of the time. In E3 trailers, like whatever you're seeing there is basically fake. Like it's basically just like a really scripted slice of gameplay that the player goes through, and then they do a bunch of cool stuff, but usually that's not what you get at the end. At least for movies, it's kind of like you get the general gist of it from a trailer, and then that's about it. Obviously you can still get tricks like, oh, like this person didn't really appear, or they only appear for like 2 seconds and stuff. But yeah, either way, I think it's a great thing to actually have happen, so they actually advertise things like how they should be advertised. And I think this should be for video games as well. So
yeah, I mean, like the whole backstory with this is just very funny because it's from two Anna de Maris fans who went to go see, or like I guess like watched Yesterday, which is a 2019 film about a world without the Beatles, and she was in the trailers, but she was not in the movie because she was cut from whatever scenes that she was in. So obviously that was a little deceptive. So it is kind of crazy that now movie studios can be sued under this law, because I think that this is going to change how the MCU and Marvel are going to do their trailers, because I think most Marvel fans know about the fake out stuff that they did within the Endgame and Infinity War trailers, because it was like they were trying to hide a lot of stuff, and I think that stuff benefited those movies in particular. But I think that when you cut out certain scenes that were in the trailer and now they're not in the movie, that is a little sus, especially since you're just not going to use that actor or actress within the movie anymore. So I think that is fair play there. So yeah, I mean, it's just going to make it so when you watch a movie trailer, that's going to be stuff that's either going to be in the movie or like a slightly different version of it kind of thing,
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think either way, it's pretty cool. I think the cool tricks the MCU does to make it look like something is happening, but not really. I think that's fine because it kind of keeps like the thing a secret. But yeah, if it's like a bigger thing, then yeah, they should be more transparent about like if a character isn't like doing something. I guess I don't know.
Yeah.
So
I mean, like it's the same thing with Spider-Man: No Way Home, right? Like
Yeah.
they were pretty good at hiding the fact that Toby and Andrew weren't in those trailers at first.
Yeah,
except for that lizard getting kicked in the face, and then they're like, "Oh shit, we fucked up." But yeah, it was gonna be hard to keep it a secret anyways because most of it leaked. But yeah, I think that this is, like you said, a good sort of thing to do. I think that this can also be hurtful in some instances, but we'll just have to wait and see exactly how this will affect movie trailers and how they're made and perceived by general audiences. All right, so moving on from there, I'm about to talk about Daredevil and Charlie Cox because, he recently did an interview for a new Netflix limited series called Treason. I believe it's only 5 episodes. I'm definitely going to watch that because I love Charlie Cox. But he was able to open up about Daredevil and sort of talk about that for a little bit. He is a actor within Hollywood that, got a chance of stardom, but he never really got, off the ground with it. And then he got the Daredevil role for the Netflix series, but after that was sort of scrapped. He never once again got his stardom, and he's sort of dormant for a while, and now he's back again as Daredevil within the MCU. So he gives us some context as to how it all came about. He got a call from Kevin Feige a few years ago wanting his Daredevil to come into the MCU, and as of right now, he's the only character within that Marvel Netflix spectrum to come into the MCU officially. So at the time, Spider-Man and She-Hulk cameos were the only things that he was going to do, but nothing else planned after. Obviously, it was well received by audiences, obviously just from Spider-Man alone, because I feel like from that, in and of itself, was them being like, all right, now you're going to get your own series, and it's going to be 18 episodes. And like he was even shocked that it was going to be that long compared to the 9-episode run that most Disney Plus shows get. So, quote, my opinion in this character works best when he's geared towards a more mature audience. My instinct is that on Disney Plus, it will be dark, but it probably won't be as gory, end quote. So I think that, as a person who has obviously watched all of the Daredevil stuff, when it comes to the stories that they were able to tell, I think the gore was just as a way to show like the extra like shock factor. Like I think most people know about that scene with Kingpin slamming that guy's head into the fucking car door. Like that might be a spoiler for some people, sorry, but at the same time it's very much like iconic with the show, and like that did play into the storytelling, but did that necessarily need to be shown where like all of his guts spilled out of the car? Not really. But hey, that shit's on Disney Plus now. If you want to watch it, you can go watch it. But yeah, I think that it's still being geared to a much more mature audience. I think that Charlie is right on that, but not having as much gore, I'm down with. Obviously, he does open up and say more about like he doesn't even know the script or anything like that. So, Damian, what do you think about the sort of like violence and gore thing on stories?
I think like it's not really needed. Well, it's kind of hard to say, right? I think it gives things some more impact. Like I think with the Kingpin thing, like it shows like how violent he. Obviously, I haven't watched the show, but I do know about that scene because everyone talks about it. Same with the hallway stuff. I think it shows how violent he is and like what he's gonna go, like what he will go through, or I guess like to like show. You know what I mean? Like it shows that he's a bad guy. You know what I mean? Like in really graphic detail, I guess. And I think it's some fights and stuff where there's blood and stuff. It shows certain impacts of their hits and how brutal it could get. Obviously, there's like always like things like needless gore. Like it doesn't need to be there. It's just there for shock value. But I do think like blood and gore and stuff do serve good things for a story, just to show how real a situation is getting or how severe it could get. Again, like if it's gone. Like if there won't be as much of it or any of it in the Disney Plus thing, then I hope they kind of write around it and be like, I don't know, like maybe you could still hear some stuff like some smooshing noises or something. I don't know, but I still feel like it might need the impact. You know what I mean? So yeah, like I don't think it's entirely necessary. Like I don't really like gore fest either. Like I'm not like that big into that stuff, but I think it does help certain like scenes and stuff to make it like, whoa, holy shit. You know what I mean? So yeah.
I think that if this Daredevil series doesn't have blood at all, I think that that'll be way too far from the character.
It definitely needs blood, yeah.
Yeah. in my opinion. But he does also talk about, those fans that are looking for this season to be season 4. He says, quote, "I would say to those looking for Daredevil season 4, we've done that. Let's take the things that really worked, but can we broaden it? Can we appeal to a slightly younger audience without losing what we learned about what works?" End quote. So I think appealing to a much more broader audience and just appealing towards, I guess, like the MCU normies, I think that is fine. I know that a lot of people took this quote and sort of like viewed it the wrong way. I get it. Like the Marvel MCU stuff was very much like its own like niche thing. Like not everyone watched it kind of thing. And it was very, tight knit, very, it wasn't well known. And that is even shown today where it's even sitting on Disney Plus. And there's a lot of people that haven't seen a lot of those shows because they're not quote unquote officially canon. But still, those are some great shows, great television to watch, obviously, especially the Daredevil stuff. So him thinking that this is going to be like a soft reboot and things like that, and them sort of gearing it towards a much more general audience. Like I said, he doesn't know jack shit as far as we know. He might know everything, but he's just not telling us. Either way, I don't mind whichever direction that they take with this Daredevil, as long as it's not, towards the MCU route. As long as, Charlie Cox is able to, identify that like this character is still staying true to the Daredevil character.
Yeah, that's fair. You don't want him like to get like too MCU-ified. Like he's like cracking, he cracks someone's skull open. He's like, "Whoa, dude, that was pretty crazy." So yeah, I love the MCU. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, like when jokes are made within Daredevil, they're obviously well timed, well coordinated. They are well written. It's not just like he's beating someone up and then he's like, "I hate to be that guy" or some shit. I don't fucking know, like some corny and some shitty like that.
Yeah.
But. Yeah, I mean, he's going to be shooting the series throughout the entire time next year from February to December in New York City. So that's fucking crazy to me that Disney is willing to pump in so much, I guess, like resources and time into making the show as good as it is. Because I think that he says that, like, if this doesn't do well, like, it's kind of like over for it. But I don't think it will be, because I think that the fact that they were already able to explore the character, especially within the She-Hulk episode, where it was pretty much his episode, I would say. Obviously, like She-Hulk was there and she was able to facilitate the episode and sort of move it forward. It is still her show, but still, that episode with Charlie Cox's Daredevil in it really does show that, hey, like this could be where this new version of Daredevil goes, and if that's where it goes, in a slightly darker route, or heck, keep it the same, I don't mind, because I think that as long as Charlie Cox is in that character and sort of maybe dictating on how the story is made, I'm down for it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it would do well though. I think Daredevil is pretty popular. Like I think most people, obviously not every person is gonna know Daredevil, but I think that really shitty like early 2000s movie really helped as well. It's like, oh yeah, I know Daredevil, it's that guy. So yeah.
Yeah. But hopefully Charlie Cox is able to continue his career as the Cape Crusader.
Well, good thing Daredevil's on Netflix anymore, because Netflix is planning to end password sharing in 2023. So yeah, this has been a big thing that Netflix has been trying to do for the last year. I think they announced that they were gonna try to stop doing this. Yeah, and it looks like it's gonna be happening, and apparently more than 100 million viewers will be affected. So yeah, password sharing for streaming services is pretty common. I use my brother's Disney Plus account, and he uses my Crunchyroll. It's like, why pay for more when you could just split the bill, I guess, for different streaming services. I'm pretty sure it's really standard across multiple households and stuff. Especially if maybe you have a significant other and you want to share your password with her or him or whatever. It's just stupid. I mean, a lot of people have been saying this is a really dumb decision. Netflix has not really been pumping too many great things out lately. I know Stranger Things, obviously, and I think that Wednesday show was good. People really like that. But still, its content has been a far cry from what it used to be, and they always keep taking things out. They keep raising how much it costs every month or whatever, and now you're just adding this. Is I don't know. It just seems like really bad timing. And it would just get more people to leave the platform, and it's already so many people are already leaving Netflix for other streaming services. It just seems very tone deaf, and in an effort to save more money, it seems like they're just going to be hemorrhaging more subscribers. So yeah, it seems like a really dumb take in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see why they need to do this. I think that whatever profits or whatever subscribers, quote unquote, that they're gonna get is gonna be insignificant, because I know that the recent rollout of the ad version of Netflix has like not a lot of people on it. Because like, why the fuck would I pay for Netflix when I would still get ads when I could pay a few more dollars for, you know, no ads? And even then, it's still not, you know, the highest quality of Netflix, because, you know, Netflix has only gone up in price, as, you know, sort of like the Far Cry days, as it was when it was sort of on the top and no one really, you know, was competing with them. But now they have Disney Plus, HBO Max, even Crunchyroll. You know, you have all of these streaming services competing with Netflix as a whole, and it's like, shit, you know, them sort of taking away the password sharing thing, which was a thing that Netflix kind of created in and of itself, because, you know, you would have friend groups or people across the world, you know, they would share their own Netflix account with each other. And, you know, I'm not sure how they're going to track it, you know, whether it's like you can only access it within the state of like whatever state that you're in. Like for me, I'm in New York. If you're outside of New York, shit, you can't access it. It's like, but like, what if I travel, or like, what if I have, you know, family that's like, you know, always moving around and this and that, you know, like it is definitely going to be a very frustrating for some people, because it's like, okay, all right, I'm here, and then I'm going to go to a hotel across the country, or like within a outside of the country or whatever. And then they try to log into their Netflix, and it's like, oh, you can't do that because we blocked you or some shit, because you can't do your password thing or whatever. And I feel like that's just really dumb and stupid, you know, as long as, you know, people, I guess, are splitting the bill. Like, obviously you and your brother do that. Me and my brother do the same shit, you know, like he pays for most of these streaming services. And then if he wants to watch Crunchyroll, because he's not a big anime watcher, if he wants to watch Crunchyroll, I'll just give it to him, you know, and he doesn't watch Disney Plus anymore. So now I pay that for myself. You know, things like that, you know, splitting the bill within households, I think is very, very common, especially when there's so much like streaming services and subscription things that you have to like pay for your entertainment. You know, password sharing, I feel like, is them trying to eliminate people sharing it across like friend groups that are like all over the place. And I feel like that's even worse. Like that is just stupid.
Yeah, especially now, like, since, you know, so many people have friends like all over the place, like just let them do it. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like just by taking away this, you know, password sharing, like those people probably weren't going to subscribe anyway. So I feel like, like they're probably just going to find another free way to watch it. Like, it's very easy just to like torrent it or whatever. So like, you're just going to lose a subscriber basically, because then that person would be like, well, what's the point? I'm just going to not subscribe either. So yeah, I don't know. It feels like a lose-lose for like everyone involved. So yeah, it just really doesn't seem like it seems like a knee-jerk reaction from Netflix to try and make more money, and I think it's just going to cost them way more than they think. Yeah,
it just shows the direction that the company has been going within the past couple of years. You know, sort of just like ignorant to like whatever the hell is going on in their space, when it's like, all right, you guys are at the top, now you're kind of like in the middle or even at the bottom for some people. You gotta like pick it up to like get back to where you were, even if you want to be back there, which I feel like, you know, any company within this capitalist sort of, you know, society wants to be on fucking top. And Netflix was on top for so long. Now they're like, you know, sort of not up there anymore. In my opinion, I don't even know what is like the top streaming service anymore, because in my opinion, they're all kind of just like the same, you know, like obviously like Disney Plus has like everything Marvel and Star Wars that you would want, because that, where the fuck else is it gonna be? And then, you know, Amazon Prime has, you know, their stuff with like The Boys and Invincible. And then Netflix has Stranger Things or whatever else you want to watch. You know, Netflix still has like a large variety of things, and I would say that their foreign content is getting a lot bigger. You know, not just because of Squid Game, which is obviously the most popular one, but, you know, if you look at like their sort of like reality TV show stuff, like most recently, Kofi showed us Terrace House, which is like a Japanese reality TV show where like these like six people, 3 guys, 3 girls, they pretty much just live in a house together for a month, but they all go through like their every day-to-day thing. But
is that just
like,
Big Brother? kind
of, but like they're all like unique in a sense, you know? So I don't know if that's how Big Brother is too, where like they all have like their own like unique personality and like their own hobbies, and obviously maybe some of them may like each other or whatever. But I know that this season of Terrace House that we were watching, I think the youngest one was like 19, and then the oldest one was like 31 or something. So, you know, there's obviously like a big like age difference between some of them. But yeah, it is definitely very entertaining to watch. But I think the gimmick of this show in particular is that like, what's it called? There's like comedians or like other people that are like reacting to the show as it's going on. So like a scene will happen and then it'll cut to like the people reacting, which may seem dumb, but like when you see them like, you know, sort of make jokes and sort of like point certain things out, it's like, oh, okay, like that's kind of fun. So I will say that, you know, Netflix is expanding on that front because I know that there weren't as many like K-dramas or like, you know, foreign movies on Netflix as it was like 5 years ago. But now they're like signing on like a lot of these big shows or and whatnot, which is, you know, introducing people to, you know, different things of TV. But I feel like for, I guess, like Western audiences or like for normie people, you know, it's mostly just like, all right, well, what's that fucking show where it's like, oh fuck, it's not Love Island, Too Hot to Handle or whatever.
Yeah.
Fucking that shit, you know. They just have like all of those shows, and I'm just like, all right, like this is dumb popcorn TV that I'll watch, but it's like, do I really want to watch this? Not really. You know, I would much rather have them bring back those like animated series that they canceled. Yeah,
like, and it sucks too because I think Netflix has great animated stuff too, but you know, they always kill it. Like, you know, like you know, Arcane, Cyberpunk. Even Sonic Prime, I actually did watch all of it yesterday because I wanted to. Because honestly, it was really good. I liked it a lot. Yeah, I'm like, shit. Like, you know, Netflix does good stuff when it wants to. It's just that, you know, it does a lot of dumb stuff too. So hopefully it could like fix itself at some point. Because yeah, this password sharing, you know, stopping it is dumb. So yeah.
Yeah. All right, so the last bit of news we got here is Microsoft firing back at the FTC over the Activision Blizzard buyout. So I'm pretty sure the main thing that they brought up was some amendment or something like that. I think it was the FTC violates the Constitution are listed at page 34. Something about like them not allowing them to foreclose on the deal. Obviously, I didn't read too deep into the fucking actual thing because it's like 30-something pages or whatever. But yeah, pretty much.
It's a lot of legal mumbo jumbo.
But yeah, you know, pretty much Microsoft being like, but we want this. We want Activision Blizzard. And I think that, where is it in this fucking Game Informer article? I think it was them being like, it's just them having, or them buying out one of the many like game studios or whatever. Yeah. Activision Blizzard are just two of the hundreds of game publishers. And yeah, I mean, I think that is one very dumb and simplified way of saying it. When it's like Microsoft and fucking Activision Blizzard, you're talking about, those are like two big giants, obviously. And I think that Sony being like, nah, they can't have that because like we don't want to lose Call of Duty, you know? And it's like, okay, I get it. You know, you don't want to lose one of your big sort of not necessarily exclusives, but a lot of people do play Call of Duty on PlayStation and a bunch of other Activision Blizzard titles on their platform, and they're sort of scared of Microsoft being like, well, now we want it exclusive on PC and or Xbox. So, yeah. Oh, okay. It's saying the FCC is violating their Fifth Amendment right to due process. Okay, I'm stupid. I didn't read the or I did read it. I just forgot where it was. Anyways, yeah. I mean, I think that, you know, this is obviously going to be a legal battle that'll take many months, maybe even years, as to whether or not Xbox will actually have Activision Blizzard under their belt of studios to really work with and acquire. But yeah, my opinion, I think that Activision Blizzard is obviously like a huge game publisher. Do I necessarily think it's a monopoly? Not necessarily, but I do think that it does give Xbox a huge advantage within the gaming space that if they really wanted to, they could like turn it around and be like, all right, well, everything's exclusive to us. Fuck PC Game Pass. Nope, everything's gonna be on Xbox now. If they really wanted to, because they do have the power to do so, because it is a, you know, once again, a capitalist society where they can do whatever the fuck they want. So, you know, it is very tricky to really navigate this one, because, you know, if it was something a little smaller than Activision Blizzard, like what's it called? Bethesda, you know,
yeah,
when they bought that, it wasn't like as big of a deal because obviously like they're known for Skyrim and like everything like that, but it wasn't like, holy shit, they're buying fucking Activision Blizzard, the guy who's make Call of Duty and like Overwatch, like what the fuck?
Yeah, like Activision Blizzard was kind of like they're like huge, so it's kind of weird having another huge thing, another huge thing like that. That's why it was such a mind-blowing thing. And, the biggest thing for them is Call of Duty. Like, that's always the biggest thing. And, it just feels like, most of this like relies on just like who gets to keep Call of Duty. Like, Call of Duty is just like the child of a divorced parent right now. It's like, I don't know who I'm gonna go with right now. So that's kind of what's been going on. Like, again, like I think the Blizzard stuff I don't even really care about, or like some of the other stuff is mostly just Call of Duty. And like the mobile game stuff, like, because that's the real money makers. Again, I don't really care about Call of Duty, so like it's not really hitting me as hard. As long as Blizzard keeps on PC still, like they treat them better, that's all I kind of care about. But yeah, I highly doubt they're gonna really get rid of PC support, because they've been putting a lot of effort into like bringing things to PC at the same time, and making the PC Game Pass basically the same as the Xbox Game Pass minus a few games. So I don't really see their support. Also, like, it's Windows, so Microsoft still owns that. So I guess we'll see. I mean, I think it's hard to say if they have a monopoly or not, because most Xbox stuff are just like, they don't really have anything, right? Like Nintendo and Sony have really great first party games that I would always buy when they first come out, because they're really fucking good. Microsoft hasn't really had that really too much. Like, they had a few, I guess, but like it's not really a lot. Most of the time it's just Halo and Gears, and like that's about it. Obviously they're expanding now, but it's still nowhere near as like crazy as Nintendo or Sony that built up these IPs for like 20 plus years at this point, So yeah, I think Microsoft is kind of just desperate at this point to have something on their console that the other consoles don't have, that they're really trying to just speed run it at this point. Even though they really should have started doing this when the Xbox was first a thing. Like, obviously they did Halo, which was great, but Bungie wasn't really loyal and they left. So they still owned Halo, but it's not really the same anymore. And they really should have been cultivating more IPs and stuff instead of like axing a bunch of them. So yeah, that's just kind of my take on that.
And even when they try to resurrect them, it doesn't garner the same attention as, maybe some other Sony IPs. And even then, Sony isn't doing that shit anymore. They're, like their blockbuster mentality with like everything has to be like an open world game, everything under the PlayStation Studio sort of title has to be like, sort of like cinematic, story driven, big games kind of thing. Yeah. And if it doesn't meet that shit, it's not gonna be made. Some like Sly Cooper, that shit never coming out.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Ratchet and Clank is still a thing. So,
but you know what? Another Last of Us game? Fuck it, why not? Give me that shit.
I feel like Neil Druckmann was like, yeah, my next game is gonna be like a TV show. I'm like, oh.
But
very cool.
Yeah, it is what it is. Like I said, it's probably going to be months, years, even until this case is finally solved, because obviously they're going back and forth with it.
Yeah, it's going to be a while until we see the end of this. So,
all right. So last bit of the show, we're going to switch to our best games of 2022. So let me just switch over everything. Just give Damian some I guess like a POV of like what I'm doing here, so we could actually see what the fuck's going on. But yeah, just like what we've done for the last few years of our tier list, we are going to rank pretty much every single game that we have played this year, either together or separately on our own, and just go from there. So obviously we are ranking them from S to D, S being the best, D being the worst, and we'll just start off with the game that we both played and finished, Sonic Frontiers. We'll just start off with the big hitter. For me personally, just because that's one of the only games that I finished this year, other than a few others. But Sonic Frontiers. I mean, I'm still working on my video for it, and I will say that this is a game that I was extremely looking forward to. And did it deliver? Yes and no, I will say. I think that story-wise, it is definitely one of the better Sonic games within recent years. Obviously, that doesn't really say a lot, because most of the Sonic stories within recent time have been really bad. I think after Sonic Unleashed,
McNose here.
After Sonic Unleashed, they were kind of just like, "Hey, fuck it, whatever." It's just Sonic stopping Eggman, whatever, kind of thing. But I feel like with this one, they were actually trying to do something different and something new, and a lot of it is because of Ian Flynn's writing and sort of like what Sega was able to give them. I think that the story that they were able to tell with Sage, no spoilers, but I think that the story that they were able to tell with Sage was very cool. I really like Sage as a character. Gameplay wise, I think that this is like the biggest thing with the open zone mechanics. It did, some things well, but it also did some things poorly. I think that performance-wise, even on the PlayStation 5, the pop-in is very noticeable and honestly unacceptable in my opinion. But I think that the open world stuff where you're just running around collecting things, I think that is a lot of fun. Fighting these mini bosses and then getting to the big boss at the end once you collect all 7 Chaos Emeralds is a lot of fun. That is like a really, I guess, like general gameplay loop that works with Sonic. And I think that as their first open world game with the Blue Hedgehog, it was done decently well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I actually, yeah, like the thing I enjoyed the most about this game was definitely like the story and stuff. Like, actually, I'm like, wow. I know people are like making fun of it now with like all the callbacks, but like, I don't know. I kind of like that. I ate that shit up. I don't know. I feel like it's been so long since Sonic has like had a more, I guess, serious story.
Cohesive.
And I know people. Yeah, cohesive story with like lore and whatever. Because ever since Sonic Colors, they kind of like got rid of that stuff. And I mean, I love Sonic Colors still, but I know people really resent that game now just because of like it started like all of this stuff. Like this more lighthearted Sonic. But I'm glad to see them go back to the more adventure style of storytelling and stuff while still being like not as crazy as those games are. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And with the open world stuff or zone, whatever. I think it was really good, at first. And then, it's still good at the end. But like I said before, it definitely starts to feel very repetitive towards the end. Like, I feel like there's not enough different activities to do to really shake up the formula. Like, yes, collect the gears, collect the keys, open the Chaos Emerald stuff. And, it kind of got repetitive towards the end. And, the cyberspace levels definitely feel like the worst part of the game at this point, where Sonic just feels very weird in those levels. Like, again, like, you don't boost very fast. When you do boost, you don't actually hurt enemies. You kind of just run slightly faster. Sonic feels pretty heavy there. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy the cyberspace levels that much, but I think the open world zone stuff has a lot of potential to be really good. And in this game, it is good. It just, I think it could be even better. And I'm happy to see that Sega, or Sonic team rather, is going to be really focusing on this type of gameplay and really perfect it in the future. Because I think this has a lot of potential. And hopefully they don't drop it after like 2 games and they really keep at it to make it something really good,
I'm definitely looking forward to whatever Sonic team do moving forward with this open zone formula, and hopefully whatever they decide to do with the story, because I think that this is like a really good setup, maybe not as like a first game, but like a really good, like, I guess, like prologue as to like what they're trying to do with this new Sonic story as they're doing all these callbacks and everything like that. And once again, the cyberspace levels are not all that great, and because of that, even though it's probably a B game, I'm definitely willing to put it in A. But Damian, where do you think it belongs?
That's hard to say, because I was also gonna be like either A or B, and then I was gonna say, "Hey, Travis, what do you think?" I'm gonna let you have this one. What do you think? I'm comfortable either being A or B, honestly. So.
Okay. I mean, like, me personally, when it comes to every other game that I played this year, it's definitely an A, because I didn't play a lot of games this year.
That's fair. Yeah.
I think that if I played more games, like, I would probably put Kirby above Sonic Frontiers if I actually finished it, because I did play a little bit of it, but and obviously God of War if I fucking finished it, obviously. Right. But I think for me personally, just because that is the only game that I really finished this year, it's a tier game. Unfortunately, no game that I played and finished this year really wowed me. I did play a lot of mediocre shit, I will be honest. So, but we'll move on from there. Damian, pick one of your many games.
All right, I guess I'll go chronologically from me, at least right now. I'm gonna start with Pokemon Arceus, because that came out like January. So yeah, Arceus. I love this game. Like the 2 Pokemon releases have been very good. They're just okay. It's very complicated. Scarlet and Violet are complicated, but Arceus I actually really enjoyed. I think it does everything I wanted a 3D Pokemon game to do since it went on Switch. You could capture Pokemon like in real time. You could fight Pokemon just in the field, like you don't change it to a battle transition or anything. I thought the story was a lot better than like Sword and Shield, because Sword and Shield had a pretty shit story and stuff. The game just felt a lot more, I guess, mature in tone as well. Like a lot of it just felt really good and what I really wanted from a Pokemon on Switch. The game looks very ugly. Like it's a very ugly looking game. I won't deny that, but at least it ran sort of okay. Like I didn't have any issues with it besides it looking like ugly, if that makes any sense. But the game still ran fine. I had a great time throughout the whole game. I thought the game was decently challenging as well. Like, there was a lot of points where I was actually like pretty struggling. Like I had to like, oh shit, I need to try it in a Pokemon game. That's crazy. So I really enjoyed that. Like the ending sequence is fantastic in this game. And just capturing all the Pokemon is really cool as well. But just like Sonic Frontiers, it feels like they could do so much more with this. Like they could have bigger worlds, or they could have like more Pokemon or more events going on. Like this game does feel very empty in a sense, sort of like Sonic Frontiers, where you're dropped into the zone and like just do whatever you want. Like in Sonic is like collect a bunch of stuff, and this one is just catch a bunch of Pokemon, and that's about it. The battling, even though I said it, like that game is pretty challenging, I think the battling is stripped a little too down to its core. They took away abilities. There's no held items, nothing like that. There really isn't that many moves in this game either. There's like maybe 100 or something moves compared to like, I don't fucking know, like 1,000 moves at this point in regular Pokemon games. So a lot of the movesets became very repetitive. Like all my Pokemon had like fucking like X-Scissor and shit, like because they didn't really learn anything else. So I think that stuff could be improved over time if they do another Legends game, which I really hope they do. But yeah, I really enjoyed this game. I really like the sort of action, sort of combat Pokemon boss battles where you don't even have to fight them in a turn-based setting. You kind of just threw your like shit at them, like you threw like a puff thing at them while dodging attacks. It was really fun. And the last boss for Arceus was actually really hard. Like I died like 4 times. Like I'm like, what is this? Like Dark Souls shit. But it was a lot of fun. Again, besides the game looking ugly, I think Game Freak really had something here. And I really enjoyed what I played. And it's an A-tier game. I'm not gonna put it as I'm not that crazy, but it's definitely an A-tier game. And I guess when I'm on the subject of Pokemon, I'm just gonna talk about Scarlet and Violet at this point. So Scarlet and Violet, I honestly enjoyed just as much as Arceus. But the game not only looks like ass, it runs like ass. Like Jesus Christ. Like this game runs so bad, it's embarrassing. Like you would like if when you're in the snow area, your frames go to like 10, like because it's snowing and you're like riding around on your fast like motorcycle thing, and the game just cannot keep up. It's actually hilariously bad. And a lot of time the camera would like lose track of you. Like you're like riding on your bike and your camera is still here and you're like going like this. So like what's happening? A lot of other stuff, like a lot of crazy glitches that happen. Like the Pokeball would clip through the floor. Regularly you could see the floor just clipping like from the ground when you're in a battle sequence and stuff. The game was very unpolished and should have not been out this year. If anything, I think Arceus should have came out like right now. Should have came out in November, and this game, Scarlet and Violet, should have came out next November. I think that would have been a perfect release schedule. I think, we still would have a Pokemon game every year, and, both games could have had a lot more development time to fix out all these bugs and stuff. But yeah, besides that, man, it was really good. I really enjoyed the open world setting in this game a lot. You could tackle any gym in any order you want. You could do a bunch of other activities, like take on Team Star, do some other stuff with like these HM stuff. Catching Pokemon again in the open world setting is super fun. The battle system is back to being more traditional Pokemon, which is better because it's a little more deep than Arceus was. And the ending sequence was fantastic. Like holy shit! Like I like it felt like I was playing like a Xenoblade game at the end. Like what is this? Why couldn't this be the whole game? But I would have ranked it A with Arceus, but I think the performance really knocks it to a B. Like I really like this. It should be lower. Like honestly, it probably should be lower. But I really, really enjoyed it. Like this is the most fun I had with Pokemon in such a long time, and it feels really good. But Jesus Christ, does that game like ass? But I really enjoyed it either way. So yeah, that's my Pokemon takes for this year. I'm both happy and disappointed. It's really weird. So yeah,
very, very interesting. But yeah, okay, so I will pick one of my games. So I'll just talk about Gotham Knights real quick. I only played like a few hours of it, like 3-4 maybe hours of it. And that was around when it came out. And honestly, I really did want to play more of it because I was actually having fun with it. So this is going to be I guess like a hot take because people love shitting on this game, because it is Gotham Knights, and Gotham Knights is not the greatest. I will be honest. I think that the fact that the game was built around like this system where it was going to be like a Avengers game, where it was going to be like a live service type of deal, and then they saw how Avengers did it and they were like, well shit, we kind of have to like backtrack it now, but we can't delay it too far where it's not going to be delayed like 2-3 years, because they would have to rework literally the entire gameplay. Because when you fight in combat, it does feel really tanky and really like all over the place, even when you traverse Gotham itself, it doesn't feel the best. And also the console, I guess, like controversy, the fact that they didn't release it on PS4 and Xbox One. Okay, that's fine as long as the PS5 and Xbox Series X versions are running at 60 frames. That didn't happen. So what's the point of buying it on console? So I decided to buy on PC, but also because my friend Louis was going to play it on there. So I was like, fuck it, whatever. I'll just buy it on PC. It does look nice at 60 frames. I just wish that was what it was able to do on console. But the gameplay itself, I mean, I was having fun just like running around with Louis, just kicking people's ass and like Gotham, just doing shit like simultaneously. Like I'm in one part of the city, then he's like in another part of them. Like when I start a mission, like he'll get teleported to me and stuff like that. It does feel weird when you're doing like story mission stuff that like only your character as the host is in the cutscenes. Whoever else is playing with you, they're not in there. So yeah, the game is a little all over the place. I obviously haven't finished it yet, but I do think that the story itself is a bit funky too. I think that there was a much better way to implement all 4 of these, I guess, Batman sidekicks into the story other than just throwing them all in as soon as possible right when Batman dies kind of thing. I think that maybe having a way of like, oh, look, maybe Robin first found out and then he goes on a journey to like find where the others are. But I guess they just really wanted to like get the thing running and just like, okay, now you can pick between all 4 of them and just pick whoever won. Because I'm sure that might have been a complaint between reviewers where it's like, oh, you have to wait like an hour or 2 before you can play as Nightwing or the Red Hood, etc., etc. So overall, I think that Gotham Knights is like a pretty good like C tier game in my opinion, even though I haven't really finished it. I know that for me personally, just from like the gameplay and like what the story is sort of setting up, if the story does something crazy that I don't fucking know about, then shit, it might go up to B, but I highly doubt that. Just from like the gameplay itself, I think that this is a game that, you know, if they really wanted it to succeed, they would have reworked it fully because the game itself is just all over the place.
Yeah, that's kind of what I've been hearing about the game. I was see on sale all the time now, so I guess that's never a really good sign.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, like, if you want to play it, as long as you know what you're getting into and you find it for like $20 or less, fuck it, go for it. Because I think that this is a game that is well worth that price, even though it is everywhere, honestly. All
right, so next game I'll pick is Horizon. I'll do Horizon. So yeah, Horizon Forbidden West was really good. You know, I think the game got a lot of complaints. Same thing with God of War, but it's like, oh, it doesn't really evolve the gameplay too much or whatever. But I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing or anything. Like, I think, especially when it's just a direct sequel, like it's not like a long running franchise where you need change, like Pokemon or something. Like, I think it's fine to just have a straight up sequel that's nice and safe and stuff. And it does everything Horizon 1 did, but better. I think the side quests are way better in this game. The world's a lot bigger. The activities are a lot more varied in what you do. Like even just climbing the radio towers to unveil the map, like all of them feel like a lot different from each other. Like you're not just climbing the tall deck. Like you have to do like some side quests or some other bullshit and able to do it. And I think that's really cool. I do think the main story isn't as good as the first game because it gets a little crazy, which is cool. But I definitely feel like it kind of cycles back around to being like we're at the same point where one ended, and it feels kind of weird. So yeah, I don't think the main story was as strong as the first game was, but I do like the side characters way more in this game than in the first game, and I actually ended up caring a lot more about the tribal stuff in this game than in the first game. So I think all the side content was done a lot better in this game than in the first game. But yes, I think overall the main narrative was a lot better in the first game because, I don't know, the way they revealed everything and all that stuff, it was insane. I'm like, what the? That's crazy. So yeah, I think the first game kind of wins it at that point, but I think everything else is way better in this game. Gameplay, everything else. It doesn't help that this game came out at the same time Elden Ring came out, obviously, so like really overshadowed it. Same thing when the first game came out, when Breath of the Wild came out, right, like after it. So it's not really doing this games any favors, but I think there's still great open world games. Like if you want something that's like basically like a really polished Assassin's Creed game, but is like better than that, then definitely play Horizon. I'm definitely gonna put it A tier. I'll put it. I'll put it above these guys. Like, yeah. I love them, but yeah, I think technically, Horizon is better. Also, the game looked gorgeous as well. Even though it was like made as a cross-gen game, I think it looks really great on PS5. Like I think the water especially looks really good. So yeah, definitely a great game. So yeah.
All right, so the next game I'm going to pick out from here, I guess we'll talk about Ninja Turtles really quick.
Yeah.
Because that is in my opinion, like one of the better games that came out this year, but it was
Yeah.
kind of slept on because, it kind of came out of nowhere and then it kind of dropped and then no one really talked about it after that. So if you guys don't know what this game is, it's pretty much a brand new retro style beat 'em up Ninja Turtles game that you can play online with your friends, which is cool. And yeah, I mean, if you've ever played any retro style beat 'em up game, and especially ones with the turtles, that's pretty much what this game is. Maybe even better because they add some new mechanics into there that makes it a lot more fun and enjoyable to play. For one thing, I know that the drop in and drop out with the online play is very cool. We were very surprised that was even in the fucking game because at one point Damian DC'd and it was like, well, what the hell just happened? And then Damian came right back into it and nothing really changed. I know that leveling up every single character can be neat for some people because, that'll add that incentive to keep playing it over and over and over again to get that, I guess, like completionist bonus in your mind. But the amount of playable characters, I think you could play up to 6 people at a time, which is fucking insane. And also there's more than 6 playable characters, so that is pretty cool as well. But yeah, it just seems like that this game was pretty much just like a homage to those retro style games, but at the same time improving it, adding a lot of cool stuff into it. And, to anyone that loves these games, these retro style Ninja Turtles beat 'em up games like myself, you're going to love this one.
Yeah, I agree. I thought it was a great game. I obviously we both love the Scott Pilgrim game, and I just love these sort of like 2D beat 'em up games. And this game really brought me like that same joy, like that game did. And I played it through 3 times, so like I really enjoyed the game a lot. I played it with you guys, and I played it twice by myself. And yeah, it was just a great time. Like the graphics look fantastic. Like I think they did a great job sort of capturing the arcade look. Obviously, it's not like perfect to arcade because it looks a lot more advanced than that. But like just the game, the way the game looked, the personality, the way they really captured the 80s Ninja Turtles vibe, all of it was really great. I think all the characters are feel pretty different as well.
Yeah,
like Splinter is a lot more close range. Leonardo is like more of that mid range attacker. Donatello has long range staff and stuff. So I think they all feel really distinct. All the levels are fun to go through. I really like there's some variants in the levels, like when you're in the hoverboard type deal and stuff. So yeah, and obviously there's not like the game isn't very long. It's maybe like 2 hours if you're going through it. But obviously the game wants you to replay it, like go through the different modes, play through other characters and all that. So I think there's a decent enough content for what's in this game. And yeah, I think it's a very solid beat 'em up, and it's one of my favorite indie games of the year. I'm comfortable putting it in A.
Yeah, I'm definitely
gonna be a lot. Yeah,
an A.
Yeah, you can put it above. Yeah, you can put it above Arceus. Like I loved Arceus, but it's still probably gonna be at the bottom of it. Just 'cause I can't excuse anything. Alrighty, so I guess let's talk about one I was a little more disappointed with. I'm gonna talk about Soul Hackers 2. So I like this game. That is the one next to Xenoblade 3. Yeah. So I like this game, but I wanted to like it a lot more than I ended up liking it. So the combat is very Persona SMT. So basically like hardcore Pokemon, where you attack someone with a weakness, and that's basically the whole deal, right? Like like fire, whatever, weak to water, or whatever. Even there's no water in this game, but you know the deal. So yeah, the combat's still very solid. Still very SMT. You still fuse your demons and all that stuff. All that stuff is very solid. But that's also what made Persona and SMT solid. So this game, it's kind of just taking that system, which makes sense. It's a spin off of those games. But what really disappointed me was like the dungeons. The dungeons are very copy and pasted, and like they're just not really fun to go through, and they're very long. Like some of them take me a while, and it kind of just starts melting your brain after a while. Like it actually sucks because the last dungeon is the best one. And I'm like, why couldn't this just be the whole game? Like there was puzzles in there, there was other like cool things like portals, and like, oh, you gotta be careful what you go through. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of more what I expected from like a dungeon and a dungeon crawler instead of just like hallways. I know the old SMT games also had just hallways and stuff, but those were also older games. Like Persona 3 and 4 had that same level design where it was just like randomly generated hallways, but Persona 5 kind of showed that, yeah, that's not what we're doing anymore. Even like Tokyo Mirage Session was like had actual like handcrafted dungeons. This game also has handcrafted dungeons, but it kind of feel like they're auto generated with how they're made. So yeah, I think that stuff really brings it down. I think its lower budget also doesn't help it at all. Like I think the story and stuff was actually pretty good. I really like the characters and voice acting were really good as well, but I feel like it could have been a lot more if they invested more money into it. So yeah, it ends up just being okay. I'll probably put it at the top of C. It definitely left me the most disappointed of this year. Like I still liked it, and I would recommend it after like a price drop and stuff if you like Persona SMT. But yeah, it's definitely felt like it could have been a lot better. So hopefully Atlas doesn't give up on this series and they do a third game, because I would like to play it, and hopefully they could improve a lot of the things from this game. But yeah, it ends up just being pretty okay. So yeah.
Okay. I guess I will talk about, I think this is the last game for myself personally, The Quarry.
Yeah.
So this is I already forget their names, but the people who did Until Dawn, they made another sort of style game like this. They've done other ones between from Until Dawn and now, such as the Dark Pictures anthology, which a lot of those have been really bad, unfortunately, such as the Man of Medan, which I played, and I was like, this is kind of dog shit. But it looks like that they have sort of learned their ways and sort of have come back into form with this game in particular. If you like sort of what Until Dawn did, you can pretty much jump into this one and have it be like its own spiritual successor to it, because it really is like that. They really did go back and was like, all right, well, we'll just make another game like that, but with a different story, different cast of characters, different premise and everything like that. And yeah, it is a lot of fun sort of uncovering the mystery of the Quarry and getting to know all of these characters and sort of like what this social group, what their relationships are and how they interact with each other and everything like that. This is very much like one of those games where it's like, it's not really a game. You're kind of just like experiencing it, and then you're doing like the quick time events, exploring as you will. So there is those game elements, but at the same time, it's not like a game kind of thing. This is very much a game that people are willing to watch a streamer play or a YouTuber play and just have it be like that. I mean, I watched all of Until Dawn because of FaZe Jev, because I was scared to play horror games at the time. Nowadays, I'm a little more open to it. Obviously, I finished The Quarry and I played Resident Evil 2 remake a little bit. Didn't finish it because I'm stupid and I got stuck. But anyways, The Quarry, it is definitely a very solid game. It has dropped in price ever since it has come out. So if you find it around like $40, I think that is definitely worth giving a shot. I played it on the PS5 and it does look pretty good. I think that for a third-party PlayStation 5 title, it does not look like a PS4 game. I will say that. Obviously when you're competing among, Horizon, God of War, Last of Us, it's not going to look like a PlayStation Studios game, but I think that for what the studio was given, and I guess what their familiarity with the technology is on the PlayStation 5, it does look pretty good. So overall, I would definitely put it at the bottom of A. I wouldn't say that it is a S tier game, nowhere near it, in my opinion. I feel like when Until Dawn came out and people really did give it like the hype that it deserved, it was because we didn't really get a game like that in years. So sort of following up to that, it doesn't necessarily surprise you in that aspect, but it does do it very, very well.
Alrighty, so I guess I'll talk about another controversial game, which I don't know if I really agree with all of it, but Bayonetta 3. So this game has been getting a lot of controversy, obviously with the voice acting stuff, but that's mostly been disproven at this point. But now we can actually talk about the actual game, and a lot of people are not very happy with it for a lot of story reasons. Personally, I never gave a shit about the story in Bayonetta. I already talked about this when I said, like, the stories have always been super nonsensical to me. Like, none of it makes sense. Like, I love Bayonetta 2 when I played it. I thought that game was fucking awesome, and I can't even tell you a single thing that happens in that game, like, narrative-wise. I have no idea what was going on besides Bayonetta is pretty cool. Bayonetta 3, I can understand why people are mad. Like, trust me, I really do. It basically is DMC 5, but worse in terms of story and how they were handling stuff. Obviously, I'm not going to spoil anything because it's still like pretty new. But I understand that. Like, I can see why people are peeved about it, but it really didn't hamper my enjoyment of the game at all. I still think it's not as good as Bayonetta 2. I feel like a lot of it is a little more meandering than 2 did. Like, 2 had, even though 2 was like done after like 3 hours, and this game is a lot longer than that. I think 2 just had more high concentrated what made Bayonetta good, which is like actually fighting shit. This game, I feel like the combat verses are like way too short, and like it ends right before you're about to like do some cool stuff, and I'm like, oh, okay, it's back to like just exploring, and the exploring is fun and stuff, but I'm here to kill shit, like that's what I want to do on Bayonetta. And the main sort of, I guess, combat mechanic in this game compared to the other games is your like demon summoning. So if you hold down like one of the triggers, you can like summon a big demon to fight for you. And, you know, they're really slow and like, you know, they're not like the best thing to control. And, you know, you would rather just play as Bayonetta. So they're okay if you want to get like a bunch of dudes off of you and like you just kind of attack people with it. But I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I think it works the best when you could use it as a finisher. So when you do an attack and Bayonetta will flash, you press the trigger for a second and then the demon will come out and do like a cool thing. I think that's good. And the combat basically feels just as good as Bayonetta 2 at that point. But yeah, it kind of sucks that the main mechanic is just okay. Like it doesn't really work as well as the other mechanics in 1 and 2. But yeah, overall, I still enjoy the game. Like, I think some people are saying like they think this is the worst game in the series or they think 1 is better. I highly disagree with that. Like I think 2 is still the best one, but it'll be like 2, 3, then 1. I think 1 has aged worse, and it's still good, but it's like, come on, that feels a little bit egregious. So yeah, I'll put it B. I'll probably put it behind Pokemon Scarlet because I you know. But yeah, I also the game ran like shit as well. Like, look, at this point we need a Switch 2. God damn it! Like these games run like absolute ass now. Like in combat, the Bayonetta runs fine, but when you're exploring stuff, it goes to like sub 30. I'm like, please, I
feel like it would be
frames.
the opposite, right?
Well, because I think when you fight stuff, they make it like the battlegrounds look very plain, so it's like you need that 60 frames to be there, or else the game will just like feel like ass. Like when you're exploring stuff, there's a lot more things on your screen, so obviously the game's gonna slow down more, and you don't really need precision at that point. Like you could like you could just like explore or whatever. Like when you're fighting, then that would be an issue. But yeah,
Interesting. Okay, so I will talk about Lego Star Wars.
I played that as well.
Saga. So this is a game that has been in development hell, I think, for a little bit. There was a news article from Polygon, I believe, that was sort of revealing all of the crunch and all of the sort of overworking that was going on just to make this game happen at all, because they were aiming for a certain Metacritic score, which I don't even think that they achieved, unfortunately. But even then, I think that having your workers and your studio sort of reliant on other people's opinion on a game, it's kind of stupid. You know, I think that this is definitely the best Lego game by far, like by a mile. Like they did so much shit to really revamp what it means to be a Lego game. Like I still remember playing the first Lego Star Wars game with the prequel movies on the PlayStation 2 with my brother, and how bare bones and how basic that game was. Now going into this game, obviously it looks a lot prettier. There's a whole lot of other stuff going on. There's like this whole third person over the shoulder stuff with like the gunplay, the Jedi mechanics with the lightsabers. You could do combos and a whole bunch of other crazy shit. There's so many collectibles. Like this game easily 100 plus hours if you decide to 100% it. And I think that this is like a very good first game for like any kid to really like go into and like try to even 100% it if they like platformers. Anyways, obviously not every single kid's gonna like platformers because, you know, they want to play Fortnite. It is what it is. But you know, I think that this game is the best Lego game, and like it's not even close. And if they decide to do this sort of treatment to the other Lego properties, I'm 100% down for it, because I know that before this game came out, all of the past Lego games were definitely feeling the same, and they were trying to figure out how to reinvent them with the Marvel properties and with the Batman IP again, but it just wasn't working out. So I'm glad that this game really does show that, hey, you know, TT Games, they still like making Lego games, even though that they were put under such harsh conditions. I know that this is a game that they should definitely be proud of, and you know, it is amazing that this game was even made to begin with. I don't even think I ran into that many bugs or glitches. I think that the game itself was just really, really solid as like a Lego title.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Like, honestly, as a kid, I've never liked Lego games. I don't know why. I just never got into them. I've tried many times. Like, I rented a bunch of them on like Blockbuster and stuff. I just never got into them for some reason. Like same thing when I got my Xbox 360, they had Lego Indiana Jones. I just didn't like it that much. So when I kept hearing things about this game, I'm like, oh, this game looks really cool. And yeah, then I bit the bullet. I was originally going to play Elden Ring, but then I didn't, and I got this instead. And honestly, I don't regret it because the game was super fun. You know, like the game goes through all the sagas, all the episodes and stuff, and you know, they tell the stories pretty well, obviously in a tongue-in-cheek manner. The gameplay is really fun. You know, it basically feels like a 3D platformer, like just with like there's a bunch of things to collect and some light combat and stuff, some light puzzles, and yeah, it's just a good time. And there's just so much to do. There's just like a billion characters to unlock. There's a bunch of collectibles to find. Like you said, there's just 100 hours of content in this game, like to do and see and everything. Obviously, it could get kind of samey if you're gonna be doing all of that, but
Yeah.
if you're like a kid and this is the only game you could get for a while, then you'll be set. Like you'll be good for a few months, honestly. I honestly, like, the game surprised me how good it was. And like you said, I didn't really run into any bugs or anything. Like I didn't really notice anything too bad. The game ran fine. It looked pretty good for a Lego game anyway. And yeah, honestly, I was very impressed with it. I mean, I'll put an A. I mean, I don't know what you're feeling. Yeah,
I'm definitely putting it in A.
Yeah.
Probably around there. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah, you can put it there.
But yeah, I mean, like, also the voice acting, you know, like this is the first Lego game that I played with voice acting. The last Lego game I played like fully through, I believe, was Lego Batman on the PlayStation 2. And that game is still doing like the, I guess, like mumble mode, which like they do in this game, but it's not that great in my opinion, just because like they just replace the dialogue with them just like mumbling, when like in reality they are talking and sort of like giving a much more better explanation of the story. I would have liked it if the mumble mode was them using like hand gestures more and like actually changing up the cutscenes. But it does look like that they were, you know, were kind of strapped for time and sort of just like pasted it on there to be like, hey, look, we do have mumble mode, but it's not that great. But yeah, that's like the only, I guess, like major flaw with the game. But even then, it's just like an extra feature, and I think that playing it with voice acting is definitely the way to go. Even though that, you know, that may stray away from the true Lego game way, but I don't give a fuck.
Well, speaking of Stray, I got Stray here.
Oh my god.
So yeah, Stray. This is a weird game because, you know, a lot of people say, oh, it's not really a game. You kind of just walk around.
Walking simulator.
Yeah, I mean, they're not wrong. That is what you do. But I actually did like it. I don't know if I'll say it was Game of the Year worthy to be like on the Game of the Year of this thing, but it was still pretty good. You know, it was just a cute little thing. You walk around, you help these little robots, or I guess big robots because you're little, go through their thing. You slowly uncover what's happening. Obviously, the game doesn't tell you everything because you're a cat, and the game doesn't really, you know, it doesn't treat you like a cat. It kind of treats you as a person, even though the cat just kind of meows, doesn't really know what's going on. But I think the game is still cute. You know, there's some really light puzzle stuff in it. Really like platforming. It's mostly a game to look at. You know, like you're mostly walking around to look at these cool environments, explore the city, and like just have a nice little time. You know, I heard some criticism, like, you know, the game doesn't take full advantage of you being a cat, and I guess I can understand that. Like, you're not really doing like as much maybe platforming as maybe a cat should be doing or something. I don't know, maybe to make it more gameplay focused. But I think for what it was pretty cute. I liked it. I had it on PS Plus, so I didn't really pay for it necessarily. So maybe that's why I'm a little more positive on it. I'll still probably put it in B. I guess you could put it there. I enjoyed it though. Like, I think it's a good time. I don't know if I'll spend like $30 on it or how much it was. Like, there really isn't any replayability or anything like that. The game isn't necessarily like fun to play, but I think it's a fun thing to experience once and just like have a good time playing cat game. And it's good. I liked it.
All right. I guess I'll start off with talking about Kirby, and then you could finish it off. Cause
yeah, I guess it's on me now. Yeah.
I only played a little bit of it. I didn't even get past the first world, but I played the multiplayer of it with Emma because obviously
there's
she likes Kirby. Yeah, there is multiplayer.
Shit.
Surprisingly enough. I kind of said that to her. I was like, yeah, there's multiplayer. And I was like, I hope there's multiplayer. But yeah, so pretty much.
Waddle Dee. You play as Waddle Dee.
Yeah, so the second player pretty much just plays as the spear ability. Yep. And that's pretty much what I did. So my experience of it may be a little different from hers, but, you know, just watching her consume the car and be like, you know, just like running around.
Consume the car.
Consume the car, consume the vending machine, you know. Yeah, it's pretty much what I expected from a full-on 3D Kirby game where you were able to traverse the whole area. It's not in the 2.5D plane anymore. It's now an actual 3D Kirby game, and it's a lot of fun. You know, even going for all of the collectibles, which I think should be the way most people should play Kirby games, is going for everything, because like there's not much of a challenge within Kirby games. You know, all you have to do is really just get to the end of the level, which is like pretty self-explanatory. But I think that little bit of extra challenge is you trying to find everything, trying to, you know, find all of the collectibles, the stars, the capsules or whatever, you know, just trying to complete everything. And I think that is what makes this game a lot of fun for me personally. Like I said, we haven't even gotten past like the first world or whatever, the first like 5 or 6 levels or something like that. But still, it's a lot of fun. I am enjoying my time with it. Hopefully I'll finish it before the end of March next year so I can move on with my life. But yeah, Kirby, fucking, I forget what the name of it. Damian, help
Forgotten
me.
Land.
Yes, Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Really, really good.
Yeah, so I agree. Actually, I'm kind of debating where I want to put it because yeah, I have two games in mind, obviously for S tier, but honestly, this might be one of them because I really enjoy this game. I don't think it's the best Kirby game. I still think Robobot is because Robobot was like the perfection of 2D Kirby, but this feels like a great, obviously like such a natural translation from Kirby to 2D to 3D, where it's just yes, this is Kirby in 3D, and it feels very natural. Like it feels like wow, why wasn't this done before? I think after Star Allies, where everyone was pretty burnt out with 2D Kirby at this point, I think this really does feel like a breath of fresh air while still being very familiar. I think it's still like the first of a 3D, it's still the first of a new thing for Kirby. So like, it's obviously not going to be perfect, but I think for what it did, it does it really well. Like the game looks great. It runs great. There's some okay challenge. I said the game is pretty easy. Obviously, it's Kirby. I know that. Yeah. But, I think even compared to things like Robobot, which got really hard if you're doing some of the optional stuff, I feel like the optional stuff in this game is a lot easier compared to that stuff. Maybe because you're in 3D now and there's just more places you can move around and stuff. And again, Kirby's always really overpowered by the end of the game. But, yeah, honestly, it's just a fantastic game. A great platformer. I cannot wait to see more 3D Kirby. Put an S tier. I don't care. I really ended up enjoying it. And I feel like the game has been kind of lost in the sauce. Like, I feel like no one's really talking about it anymore. Even though people really liked it, I don't really see enough people talk about it. So I'm going to give it, the attention it deserved. I thought it was really good. Very polished game. Which is saying a lot this year because there was a lot of great games, but very unpolished games. And I think this game was very much a polished product. So yeah, I enjoyed it a lot.
Okay. So yeah, just pick one.
I'm gonna talk about Neon White. So that's the one that is right on the top right there. Neon White is great. Like I think also with Shredder's Revenge, which is probably one of my favorite indie games of the year. I was looking out for this game for a little bit because it showed it in a few directs like last year, I think. And it looked like this cool first person sort of Mirror's Edge looking thing. I'm like, oh, this looks kind of cool. Then I played it and I'm like, yeah, this is really cool. So basically it's just like I don't even know how you describe it. Like, I guess it's a level-based speedrunning type deal. Sort of like Monkey Ball, where you would go through the courses, except it's like Mirror's Edge. Like, you would run through the stage as fast as you can, get to the end, and then, like, you would just keep trying again to get, like, platinum ranks and stuff like that. Instead of Mirror's Edge, when you, like, you have a bunch of... it was mostly just parkouring and shit. In this game, you have different gun cards you could use. So you would have enemies you have to kill before reaching the end of the stage, and you have to kill all of them, or the end of the stage doesn't open. So obviously the guns work like guns. You have like a pistol, a shotgun, or whatever. But if you right-click to discard that card, you could do like a movement option. So like a pistol gives you another jump, or a... shotgun gives you like a charge or whatever, and it makes the gameplay super fun. Like the rocket launcher is my favorite because I play a lot of TF2, so rocket jumping is just kind of what I did in that game, and you can just rocket jump with that, and it's also like a grappling hook. So yeah, I thought the gameplay was just super solid. I really loved it. It was really fun to go for all the platinum ranks and stuff. The story is very controversial, whether you liked it or not. It's a lot. It's very anime and shit. I enjoyed it for what it was. I know it's not the strongest part of the game, and the gameplay is really what's like holding it together. But I don't know. I enjoyed the plot as well. It was easily an A tier game. I really enjoyed it. And I think it was the first game this developer has done. So yeah, great job on that. Put it above Arceus. Yeah, very very great game. I guess we could talk about Last of Us since we could.
Okay. All right. Well, obviously, I haven't played part one, but just to get my opinion out there, just in case no one knows. I mean, The Last of Us is like one of my favorite games of all time. When it came out in 2013, I remember buying that on Amazon and also Animal Crossing New Leaf. And I played both of those games that summer, non-fucking stop. I would wake up in the morning, do my Animal Crossing shit, and then go right into The Last of Us until I finished it. And even then, after that, I would play some of the multiplayer. And The Last of Us as a game is like really really good, not just because of the story, but I feel like the gameplay is also like a lot of fun because it does, some of the mechanics were like the swing of the aiming just to like be like that realistic factor. I honestly really do like that, and it's one of the reasons why it's one of my favorite games of all time. But also the story is so fucking good that they're able to turn it into a television series on HBO, which it looks like it's going to be really really good. And say what you will about part two, but people still love part one, and that's why they remade remade it again, remastered it for the PlayStation 5. And obviously there was a lot of, I guess, like controversy about that, because it was like, oh, you know, like, do we really need this remake? And in my opinion, no, we don't. We really don't. But it looks like that they wanted to take some of the mechanics that they took within part 2 and sort of add it into this game. And I will let Damian talk about that.
Yeah, so like, I guess in terms of like the newer stuff, obviously we know the game is good, and this is actually my first time playing the game. I never played the PS3 version before, or a PS4 version for that matter. But I think the game looks fantastic. Like, I think they did a great job really redoing the game from scratch. Like, the game looks great. It looks like a PS5 game now. You know, the gameplay can still feel kind of PS3-y, like, you know, like you're still crouching under stuff that's like really conveniently placed and stuff. But I found the gameplay to be a lot more fun than I thought it was going to be. Like, I thought it was always one of those games where, like, yeah, mostly playing it for the story, but I actually had a great time just, you know, doing the sneaky missions and the set piece moments. Like, I think that stuff was still really fun to do, and scavenging for stuff, you know, it's fun just to grab all the shit off the ground, you know how it is. And yeah, I think all the extra little bells and whistles helped a lot. Like, you know, there's a lot of accessibility options. What I used was the gyro aiming, since this is right after I played Splatoon 3, and my brain was like, I need gyro aiming for everything if I'm going to play a shooter on a console. And it works really well. Like, I thought the gyro aiming works a lot. You know, I was trying to kill like a clicker, and I just kept dying because I couldn't like aim at the head with the stupid stick. So with the gyro aiming, it felt so good. So yeah, I really appreciate those accessibility options. And, you know, Sony is king at this point. You know, like, I think all their first party games really do a good job, you know, bringing everyone in. There's, you know, a bunch of colorblind options, you know, like those text to speech stuff. Like, there's a bunch of different stuff in there, so that anyone could enjoy this game. But yeah, in terms of for the game itself, yeah, it was very good. I could see why people really enjoy the game. I really enjoyed the game a lot as well. It's just a very solid, you know, action adventure, I guess, survival horror thing. And even though the story isn't like groundbreaking in any means, you know, it's still a zombie story at the end of the day. I think the things that make it really stand out are the characters. You know, I think that's what anyone would really tell you, you know, like Joel and Ellie and all the other characters you meet. You know, all of it feels really natural and good. Like, all the dialogue feels very real. You know, is like, you know, you just like Ellie and Joel, you know, like, they're just good characters as well. So yeah, it's just a really solid game. Loved it a lot. It's a A tier, right? Like, yeah. I mean, like, obviously, like, you know, I'm not gonna put an S because, you know, it's still a remake, and, you know, I like the game a lot, but, you know, there's other games I really liked a lot. So all right, so now we're back here. Before I hit the two big games, all right, so Splatoon 3, you know, obviously I was talking about it before. I played it before Last of Us. Yeah, it's still really good. You know, great game. It does suffer, even though I was talking about, you know, I don't mind sequels that kind of like are kind of the same. This game does feel a little more egregious about that, where it does feel like, okay, yeah, this is just Splatoon 2, but like extra. And I don't mind that. I mean, I thought the single player was fantastic, obviously. I think the single player of Splatoon is always really good. And honestly, that's like, I would be fine spending $60 just for that, because it was really fun. You know, I don't think it's as good as Octo Expansion. I still think Octo Expansion was the best single player campaign they did, but this is a close second. I think all the levels were super fun. It wasn't as brutal as Octo Expansion, but it still had some hard moments. Like, the last level, or the last secret level, was pretty fucking tough. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it took me a few tries, but it was a great time. But besides that, I think, like, the multiplayer stuff, you know, obviously still feels pretty much the same. I like the specials a lot more in this game than in 2. They feel a lot more impactful and more fun to use than a lot of the specials in 2 did. You know, graphically, I think, even though it's like basically the same, I think it does have a bit of a glow up. Like, it looks a bit more colorful. Like, the colors look, you know, just pop out more, which is important for a game like this when it's all about colors and shit. So yeah, I think that stuff was done really well. But at the end of the day, is still just Splatoon. You know, I think the tricolor game mode is cool in theory, but it's been a disaster. Like, they've been retooling this thing since the game launch, and they just can't get it right. I think it's not even active right now. Like, I forgot. Salmon Run is pretty fun. I like the giant salmonid that comes up every now and then, but, you know, it's still just Salmon Run. Like, I think they could have done a little bit more, because I love Salmon Run, but I think they could have done a bit more to make it like a bit different. And that's sort of like just the issue with this game. Like, I feel like it's not like a big thing to really make it stand out from Splatoon 2. Like, Splatoon 2 brought in Salmon Run, and that was a big deal, and I played the shit out of that. But this game doesn't really have an extra mode like that, so I feel like without that, it kind of feels a little more samey. So I'll probably put it like top of B. I still really enjoy the game a lot. It's still a great game. I put like 50-some hours into it, and I thought the single player campaign was fantastic. But it's still like compared to Splatoon 2, I think 2 brought in more stuff into the game. So yeah.
I think if I were to go buy it today, I think I would have a lot of fun with it. Just because when I bought Splatoon 2, obviously it was when the Switch had jack shit. Yeah. So and I was grinding like a lot. Like I was playing that game like so fucking much. And when I tried to go back to it, especially with the online stuff, because that's all I really play Splatoon for, I was very rusty and I was getting my ass kicked in these fucking ranked games. And I was like, yo, I can't do this shit no more, man. These kids are cracked. So maybe if I were to jump back into it, I would probably have some more fun. Still probably rage at the children on my team.
Hard.
But
it's a hard game because it's so unconventional. Like it's same thing with Fortnite with building, right? Like I rage pretty hard at Splatoon just because its mechanics are so unique that I just don't know how to counter it. Like when I could just shoot someone, it's fine. When people are swimming in ink and ambushing you or covering your feet before you can retreat, like that, it's like a whole thing I think about, but also still aiming. So it's a lot. Yeah. But yeah, it's still a good time. I guess I'll talk about also Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes as well. I really like this game as well. I think it was a great game, but it's still also just a Warriors game at the end of the day. I love these games. I love Warriors games. And, I think I really enjoy that they're going with a more story focus route with these Warrior games now, with Age of Calamity, Persona 5 Strikers. Like I think these games are great because they take more from the source material and less from the Warriors source material, so it ends up just feeling like a cool action RPG spin-off of said game, and I think that's really neat. But I do think the story was pretty disappointing towards the end. Like I think a lot of things felt very rushed for some reason. Like it was going really strong until like sort of like the last quarter, where I feel like things wrapped up very fast for like no reason. I'm like, well, okay, because I was really enjoying what they were going. Like the game has a way better focus on the war aspect of the game than Three Houses did, since Three Houses focused a lot more on the mystical stuff and like the gods and all that, which is fine, just more typical JRPG stuff. But I feel like this game had more of that edge of like covering the war and what it meant for the people, whatever, and all that stuff. But I feel like by the end of the game, it kind of just ends. I'm like, okay, it felt kind of not great in terms of that, but the gameplay wise is still really good natural evolution from the first Fire Emblem Warriors. You could command your units to go wherever you want. You could group up with your units. You could really customize all your units to be whatever they want. Like they could be mages or whatever, basically just like Fire Emblem, how Fire Emblem works. But I'll probably put it behind Splatoon. Still really good game, doesn't really do anything too new. I wish the story kind of stuck the landing a little more towards the end, but still a great game.
All right. So, which one do you want to talk about first, Xenoblade or God of War?
I guess we're gonna talk about God of War first. I don't know if you want to say what you think about the reboot series in general, because
I mean, when this new God of War sort of came out in 2018, right? It was like, holy shit! Like we're getting more Kratos games. We're getting more with Kratos. More God of War. Nice. Yeah, let's go. And no one really knew what this sort of soft reboot was going to entail, whether or not it was going to forget the past games or it was going to bring that into it. And spoiler alert, if you played the 2018 game, some stuff is relevant. Not everything, but obviously some stuff is relevant. Not going to spoil it. And obviously I don't know what's happening in Ragnarok, but I know that there's some stuff in there that really changes it up and really does bring the game together. So for Ragnarok, I've only played an hour or two, but it feels very much just the same game. And whether that's a good or bad thing, personally, I like that because I'm just like, shit, I'm right back into it. I'm fucking being Kratos. I got, my axe and I'm just, flinging some dudes. I gotta, parry and do all of this like crazy shit. It's still a lot of fun. The game looks amazing. The story where it's going right now, it sort of sets it off instantly. Like as soon as you get into the game, action instant, and I'm just like, all right, cool, you got me in. And I'm sure that you got a lot of people in, because this is people's game of the year, and I don't blame them for that. Even though I haven't finished it, I know that this is like a really, really good game just because of the amount of time that Santa Monica Studios have really poured into it, and the amount of, I guess, like hand picking and sort of handcrafting, and the fact that they knew that this is going to be the last one because they didn't want to have people wait another like 3 or 4 years for another God of War game. They're like, nope, fuck it, we're just gonna end it here because we know that this is sort of like where we can end the story instead of just like dragging it on. So I'm interested to see more of what Kratos and Atreus do within Ragnarok when I finally do decide to finish it when I get the time.
I really love this game. Obviously, it's gonna be an S tier game. It's like my two favorite games of the year, or I guess three with Kirby. I love the game, but I do agree with a lot of the issues that I do think the pacing is really odd in this game. Like, it does feel like it kind of focuses a lot on stuff that probably shouldn't be that focused on, and then towards the end, it definitely feels a bit rushed as well. I don't really know why. Like, I feel like it could like kind of change their priorities with some stuff. Like maybe like had this one thing be more of a side questy type thing, and then like have more of the main plot be focused on what the game probably should be focused on in terms of that stuff. But like I talked about, I think last podcast, I forget. Like, I know that's not really the point of these games. Again, it's more about Arceus and Kratos' like journey and stuff and their characterization. And I think that stuff is done really, really well. Same thing how it was in the first game. And I think that's like the main heart of the story. That's why it doesn't really drag it down that much in my eyes. I know to some people it might, but for me, it doesn't really drag it down that much, just because I think what it does with Arceus is really good. And, it's more of a coming of age type of story this time than the first game, and how Kratos kind of becomes like a really good father figure at this point than the first game, where he was kind of figuring out what it is to be a father and all that. Like in this game, he basically comes to terms with that, and like he never really calls Atreus boy anymore. Like he calls him by his name because he loves his son now. It's not really a thing anymore. It'd be kind of weird if he did that. So yeah, and to the point of it being more of the same, I think that's fine. This game, it kind of feels like you can't really watch Endgame while watching Infinity War. It's kind of the same deal here. Like you can't really play this game without playing the other game. Like they both kind of fit together nicely, so you can't like having it be drastically different would have been weird. I think it keeping the same style is like just fine, and I think it was smart for Santa Monica to make this just a duology instead of like making it like a trilogy, because I think people would have been pretty worn out at that point. I think Horizon's going to have those complaints once the third game comes out, because it's obviously going to have a third game with a cliffhanger in 3. And Horizon Forbidden West. But in God of War, it really does set up to be, I don't know what they're going to do next, but it's going to be pretty different from whatever they do afterward. And I'm really looking forward to it. And, to get into more of the gameplay stuff, I think the combat, it's a lot, it feels faster than 2018. You have a little more options and stuff. I still think the item levels and the leveling up stuff still feels pretty like superfluous. Like I don't know why this exists. Like it just feels like it's just there to like, oh, like here's some harder enemies. Like you have to level up to fight them and stuff. And like, okay, I guess that stuff still feels like not great, but I think the core combat still feels great to do. There's a lot of fun puzzles. Obviously, the character, I know this has also been a point of complaints where the characters just kind of help you out with puzzles like in like 2 seconds. Honestly, I don't mind that because I'm dumb. But also, like, it doesn't feel as bad. I think people always exaggerate these type of things to be way worse than it actually is. I think it's fine. Mostly my major complaint is the pacing, but I still really ended up enjoying this game a lot. I think it was a great sequel. I can't wait to see what they're going to do next with this series. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. All right.
I already know where this is going to be, but go on.
Yeah, so obviously Xenoblade 3 is my game of the year. Oh, look, I'm biased. Yeah, I know. I loved Xenoblade 3. But honestly, again, like I said last podcast, I still think it kind of suffers the same issue God of War suffers from, where its pacing is kind of whack, where like I think the middle of the game is the best part of Xenoblade 3, especially Chapter 5. If anyone played this game, you know what I'm talking about. Like those chapters are like insane and amazing. And then towards the end, it kind of fizzles out a bit. But again, it's not really about all of that. It's not really about the main antagonists in this game or wherever. And it is more about the characters and their journey and what it is to live or whatever. That's sort of like what the game is about, and it does that very well, like God of War does. Even though I do wish the climax was better, and I do wish like the villains were a lot better than they were, because a lot of them were very forgettable, and like I really didn't care about the villains in this game, which was a little disappointing, because Xenoblade 1 and 2 had fantastic villains, and I thought this game was really weak in that department. But all the characters, especially the side characters as well, really carried like everything about it. Story wise anyway. Gameplay wise, I think the game is a straight evolution from 1 and 2. I think it brings in all the best elements from Xenoblade 1 and all the best elements from Xenoblade 2. So the gacha system for Xenoblade 2 is gone. Like you don't have to randomly roll for blades anymore like some gacha game. Instead, you still have a bunch of party members you can have on you, just like the blades in 2, except now you recruit them like through normal story progression or through do side quests, and then you can get different weapons and abilities and all that stuff. And I think that works way better. One, it's not random anymore, which was dumb in in 2. And 3, you still get all your cool different builds and abilities and all that build crafting and stuff that I love from Xenoblade 2. And it still keeps a smaller, I guess, party size, just like Xenoblade 1 as well, except you customize them like a bunch. It's great. But in terms of all that, the game also like looks great for a Switch game. It still performs, it still has issues with performance, just like all the other Switch games. But I feel like there's a reason why, because the game is so big and there's so much detail and monsters everywhere. Like I could tell, like, okay, this game makes sense why it doesn't perform as well as you would hope. When I look at Pokemon Scarlet, it's like there's like one tree and you're going at like 2 frames. Like what's the issue here? This game, I could definitely see why it might struggle a bit more with the performance. But I think graphically it looks great for a Switch game. Like I think the art style looks great. It still has that anime look from 2, but it's not as crazy as 2's characters' designs. I know Pyra's, her design is a bit out there. I agree. I think this game keeps things a lot more modest. They still look great, but they're not like too sexualized or anything like how 2 was. And yeah, I think all that stuff was great. The side quests are fantastic, and I think some of them honestly felt better than the main story at times. I really enjoyed doing all the side quests, especially the all the hero quests and the other like quests you get later on as well. So yeah, I think as a package, Xenoblade 3 is fantastic. I do think it is the best one, and it feels like it really does end the trilogy really well. I just wish like some of the main villains were better and like the pacing was a bit better, but I think those things could be kind of overlooked just by how good everything else in the game was. Again, like I said, the game made me tear up twice when at the end and when the post game like side quests, because it was just really good, right? Like when you get so invested into the shit, like after like I don't know how long Xenoblade 1 came out. It was like 10 years ago at this point, or more than that. So yeah, it's been a while with these characters and stuff. So it's kind of crazy to see it kind of end like this. And I'm happy to see whatever they do next with this series. Whether to just keep the Xeno name, like the like Xeno Saga or Xeno Gears, and this is Xenoblade, and they keep it like that, then whatever. Or if it's just another Xenoblade game, then whatever. But I'm very excited to see what they do next. And yeah, definitely my game of the year. I loved it a lot. God of War was kind of close, but I think Xenoblade nudges it out just because I'm a fanboy. So yeah.
All right, so that is it for this episode of the Travis and Damian podcast. Thank you guys for listening to us throughout 2022. We crossed over 100 episodes this year, so we will obviously give you more going into next year. But yeah, is there anything else you would like to say, Damian?
No, just next year is gonna be insane with the amount of games coming out, so that's gonna be fun. So this list is gonna be pretty large next year. So.
All right, so thank you guys for listening to the Travis and Damian podcast. Once again, we will see you guys next year with more episodes.
Woo! Later. Happy New Year. Woo!